With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're going to give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much going to be a turnkey. So he's going to press start on his computer, and right after we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really going to reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every question there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
And welcome to the Precision Racing League GT3 Fixed and Sprint Series. Tonight we embark on the newest challenge in iRacing, a trip down under to Sandown and the 13 corners that it has to offer. Home to the Sandown 500, of course. We won't quite be tackling this circuit for that long tonight. However, it will still be a difficult race, despite the fact the circuit map looks more or less like a perfect triangle. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'm alongside Joey Tennant here tonight for the race. Joe, it's great to have you alongside me once again for GT3 Racing. We had a great warm-up with the GT4s only one night ago. Now it's time to take some even bigger, even faster machines around this very small circuit.
If that GT4 race last night was a warm-up, I don't know how hot this race is going to get, but it might just boil over. What do we have in this race here? The GT3 Fixed Series, 28 cars on the grid. That's 8 more than we had last night in the GT4s, and these guys are running something like 5 or 6 seconds a lap faster. They're bigger cars physically. We're in for quite an action-packed race here.
We certainly are. We've had some quite action-packed races so far in this season indeed. Let's take a look at some of those and indeed where we're going next. Of course, we've had the 6 rounds already. Hungaroring, Suzuka and Nürburgring still to come here in this season. Some very twisty circuits indeed with the Hungaroring and Suzuka coming up next. Lack of overtaking opportunities may be before our championship finale at the Nürburgring, which of course we're hoping is going to go all the way down to the wire. At the moment, the standings are looking fairly close, you would say, in the GT3 Fixed Series. It's 14 points between Danik Van Daly and Alec Bergstrom. Adam Brockway did fall behind just a little bit with a slightly off day at Spa last time out. He got involved in an incident at the bus stop chicane, which did cost him quite a few points. He's now 29 back, just in front of Francolini, who's in 4th, also having lost out on some points to Alec Bergstrom in the end of that race. But none of those guys actually won here last time out. We had a completely new winner indeed. It was a very exciting race indeed to watch last week at Spa-Francorchamps. Well, just before we go any further, indeed, into qualifying, which is just underway, let's tell you a little bit about the sponsors who make this possible. Starting, of course, with VCO, broadcast partners here at RaceSpotTV, helping to bring you every Precision Racing League event here in the 2022 Season 3 campaign here. It's great to have them alongside us, bringing you all the broadcasts here this season. Brought to you, of course, as well by Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Bookkicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driving seat. And finally, Ninja Trader, ready to compete against the financial markets, supporting over 60,000 users across the globe. Ninja Trader provides an award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Those are the sponsors that make bringing you the Precision Racing League at RaceSpotTV just that little bit easier and bringing you every single race here this season. We're into qualifying right now, just over 7 minutes. The guys just starting their first flying laps of the day here, Joe. It's going to be pretty important because you don't really want to be starting this race back in the pack. As you're about to see, these first 3 or 4 corners are exceptionally narrow, technical, difficult, and with some huge curbs as well to catch you out.
Huge curbs and a little bit of grass on the outside, as you just saw there, coming through that little chicane. If you clip that grass, you are ready for Spin City. That's how Owen Watts went out in his McLaren in the GT4 race last night. But we ride on board here with our championship leader, Danik Van Daly, actually very closely related to the sponsor of his team and the sponsor of our broadcast. He's actually the processing and assembly manager at Advanced Sim Racing. So he's got some horses in this race, and he's trying to improve to put himself close to pole. It's actually a different Eric. It's Eric Dubé this week, also in a Ferrari, who's on pole, who seemed very strong in practice. But here comes Danik to the line.
Indeed, we'll see if he gets anywhere near the time there of Eric Dubé. He's already quite close to it, to be fair. Over the line for Dan Van Daly, and he does go to the front with a 1 minute 6.6. It's a very, very fast lap around here. All of these drivers are going to be able to get multiple attempts, as you see with Eric Dubé immediately going back in front of the 11 car there. We are going to see a frantic qualifying session.
7 thousandths is the gap between first and second right now, and it's a very short lap. It's 1 minute and 6 seconds, maybe even as low as 1 minute 5 seconds if somebody puts in an absolute stonker of a lap. But that is very, very difficult to do. Might happen in the sprint series when we have some open setups, maybe a bit higher speed on the straights. Terrafino crosses the line, 106.749. Look at that gap between first down to fifth. That is 1.2 tenths of a second.
It is remarkable between these guys at the moment. Short circuit, of course, which does help the time gaps remain close, but even so, it's very, very impressive indeed. Adam Brockway makes his way towards the line right now and over the line. Indeed, what is the time going to be for the 42 BMW? It's another 1 minute 6.6, and now he goes to the front of this session. The top 3 separated by a quarter of a tenth here at the moment. It is absolutely remarkable. Still waiting and seeing where Alec Bergstrom is here in the session at the moment. I can't see him in the session right now. I don't know whether I'm just missing him at the moment, but I can't see him in this session at the moment. That's going to be really damaging for his championship aspirations, as Hugo Caputo gets into the wall at turn 4.
Yeah, this is going to have to be a drop week for Alec Bergstrom. Could be worse. He could have 2 drop weeks, but he'll be back next week, I assume. Fred Galini, you just saw him tied with Adam Brockway, 4-pole. They've both done a 106.663. Brockway set his time first or set it marginally quicker in that 4th number after the decimal point that we don't get to see, but I believe is calculated. So that's why Adam Brockway is currently on pole. But Fred Galini has been the master of qualifying over these last couple races. 2 poles in a row in that Audi. Could be 3 if he can find a couple tens of thousandths of a second. But Sean Duhamel here, P11, jumped down to P12. I think Joey Haynes just jumped him. This looks like a pretty solid lap as he brings it to the line. He does improve by 0.2. That puts him up in the top 10.
Yeah, 2 temps is going to get you quite a long way in this session like this. As we've just seen, Fred Galini goes back to the front. He's still in the 1 minute 6.6s. However, it's just that little bit better than Adam Brockway at the moment. We've got Audi leading, followed by BMW, then Ferrari, then Mercedes. Great variety at the front of this GT3 Fixed Series field, as we've got Michael Tarafino getting all out of shape over the curbs at turn 1. And the curbs are going to be a real discussion point here today. They are high, they are hard, they are going to unsettle these GT3 cars, because after all, this circuit most often sees V8 Supercars and other Australian race series tackling it, of course, and those V8 Supercars particularly are great at monstering these curbs. The GT3s aren't bad, but they're no V8 Supercar, and they do get unsettled.
They get very, very unsettled. They're not necessarily built for curb hopping like this. You saw Sean Carmody really riding that turn 1 curb, and you could literally see visually the amount of time, the amount of speed he lost by just ollieing over that curb and getting the wheels out of the air. It's a similar curb on the outside of this corner here. Don't want to ride on top of that one, and especially out of the last corner. That is a very high curb. If you get on that curb, it's going to minimize your acceleration. It's going to make you extremely slow, and you need speed down this front straight, because turn 1 is essentially the only realistic passing zone on this track. You can pass at turn 6 if you're alongside enough, if the driver on the outside or the inside of you is respectful enough, but turn 1, that's the place to be if you want to make a move.
It is. We indeed saw the winning move at the GT4 race last night, made around the outside at turn 6, but that really doesn't happen very often at all. You really do need maximum commitment through there. As we look at Brian Hoskins at the moment in the Mercedes, he's currently 24th position and won't be improving with that little hit onto the wall there. The reason, by the way, why there's only 2 cars out on circuit at the moment is because you get a limited amount of laps here in the qualifying session of the Precision Racing League GT3 series, both fixed and the open setup versions of this. You get 4 laps no matter what the circuit, so while at Spa we were really struggling to get all of those in, we're not here at Sandown. It does give us a brief moment to have a look at the starting grid. It's going to be Fred Galini taking yet another pole position in that Audi. Adam Brockway having a championship charge there from the outside of the first row. He'll be ahead of Eric Dubé and Danik Van Dale on the outside of the second row. Michael Tarafino makes the top 5 again, ahead of Andre Benatti, who will be on the third row with him. Joey Haynes will be in 7th in only his 2nd appearance this season. Rodrigo Morales will be in 8th position ahead of Hugo Caputo and Roy Brown, rounding out the top 10. Sean Duhamel will be 11th alongside his teammate Dave Peterson. Then in 13th will be Baron Glover and Jean-Francois Champagne in 14th. Philippe Magnan will be in 15th ahead of Ryan Chandler. Then it will be Regan Chandler and Spencer Semkowicz in that 9th row together. Glenn Banco and Blake Ziti will be rounding out the top 20 with Mark File in 21st. Matthew Gagnon will be in 22nd ahead of Sean Carmody. Brian Hoskins, as we just saw there, will be 24th ahead of Donald Olsen. David Boucher and Steve Bammer round out those who completed a lap in that session. Ryan Luna and Carl Streichert might take to the starting grid, although we're not sure just yet because they did not qualify here in this race. Worth doing a bit of cleaning up as well, Joey, from the Spa race, because we've had a few disqualifications actually from that one. We saw Michael Tarafino not finish the race last race, but he's been disqualified anyway. So has Andre Benatti and Andres Espinosa as well, all disqualified. We especially saw Tarafino's great consistent run of top 10 finishes come to an end at Spa, and that was a real shame to see. It's actually ended in disqualification for him, unfortunately.
Well, now is the time to turn it around, if any, and a few drivers who were also disqualified. They ran into the ire of the incident limit on these road courses. 13 incident points gets you a drive-through, 17 gets you disqualified and kicked out of the race. And at Sandown, where it's essentially a guarantee that we're going to see a little bit of contact on lap 1 in that squeeze in turns 1, 2, and 3, and 4. We're also likely going to see some off tracks with some mistakes. The incident limit doesn't always come into conversation. These guys are usually good at keeping it on the road, but at Sandown, keeping it on the road is harder than just about any other road course in the world, let alone on iRacing.
It might be something that you push to the back of your mind for the rest of the races this season at Hungaroring, Suzuka and Nürburgring, but here you will have to think about it. 40% maximum fuel for these guys in the fixed series. Fixed setup, as you can see. 13 incidents will get you a drive-through penalty, and then 17 will get you disqualified from the races. We saw for 3 drivers last time out. We saw for 1 driver at Hockenheim and Long Beach on each occasion. So something to watch out for as we look at the track conditions as well. Early in the morning, well, I say early in the morning, 11:15 in the morning in Sim at the moment, and only 68 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not warm at all, especially just comparing it to the NASCAR race we saw on Sunday, Joey, where it was pretty scorching. That is very normal temperatures, really.
Well, if my knowledge of seasons is correctly, it's summer here in North America, which I think means it's winter in Australia. So,
yeah,
68-degree winter. That's basically summer in your part of the world, Ewan. So you might want to move down to Australia.
Well, the amount of animals out there is probably not for me, but I'll take your point. It is very warm for a winter's day. You're absolutely right, though. We are getting towards the back end of winter in Australia at the moment, approaching on springtime in about a month's time, where the temperatures do begin to heat up again. But does it ever really cool down in Australia? Argue amongst yourselves. We're coming down towards the final couple of corners then, turns 11, 12 and 13, and we'll be getting ready to go racing once again here in the Precision Racing League. Last night it was the GT4. It's the turn of the GT3, starting with the Precision Racing League GT3 Fixed Series. We're underway down under at Sandown, and it's Fred Galini who speeds away from the field in the Audi on lap 1 here at Sandown. It's single file pretty much on the way in as the green flag waves. Danik Van Daly consolidating that 4th place ahead of Michael Terrafino, who tries to make his way around the outside but can't do it for the moment. The top 10 or so almost exactly single file through these first couple of corners.
And that's exactly what you want to do. And I think we've just done the unremarkable. Well, the remarkable, rather, the unbelievable, I should say. I think we've just gone through the first 4 corners at Sandown on lap 1 with a full field of GT3 cars with no incidents. That's not to say that they're not going to happen later on in the lap, as there's a little bit argy-bargy down the back straight here. Terrafino got forced off the road there by Andre Bonatti, but that's a remarkably clean first lap and very different from the GT4 start yesterday.
Bonatti and Terrafino once again getting into each other, and if I remember correctly, those two came into contact at Les Combes last week at Spa, so they will have no love lost there, you can be sure. There was a bit of driving into each other as well as positions changed further on back. This is Sean Duhamel having got displaced by Jean-Francois Champagne there, and he's just in front of Dave Peterson, as you can see in the background. VHR Racing in 13th and 14th position at the moment. That team currently in 6th in the Teams Championship, currently being dominated by Yellow Stripe Motorsports, something that Adam Brockway is looking to extend today in that 2nd position as we go on board with Philippe Magnan in the mid-pack here. This is where things get especially crazy as we go into the first couple of corners on lap 2. There's going to be a lot of laps around here, a lot of times to get this wrong.
And Philippe driving very conservatively through turns 2 and 3 there. Didn't really hop the curbs. I don't think he thinks he really needs to, because he's kind of in a train right here. You can see Chandler up ahead. Peterson's just barely ahead of that. Duhamel's just barely ahead of that. Champagne is just barely ahead of that. So it's a little bit of a train back here, a little bit of a Mercedes train. There's no real need to push the issue right now, because if you do, and you do make contact, you do go off the road this early, you're losing a lot more than you would later in the race. So I think that's why we're seeing Philippe be a little bit more conservative here, and I don't think he'll really want to turn up the wick until maybe the pit stops come around, or Regan Chandler right behind. He's not being conservative. He wants to get by Sean Carmody here.
All Audi battle here for the last spot inside the top 20. It's great to have, of course, these face cams to see really what the drivers are thinking and feeling as they make their way around at the moment. Half defence from the driver in front, but Nothing really from Sean Carmody. Goes a little bit wide indeed as well into turn 1, just ever so slightly on that outside curb. Looking up the inside again there was Regan, but no dive being made at turn 2 because that really would be a brave manoeuvre to make even at this early stage. Still 32 minutes to go in this 35-minute race, which will include a pit stop, of course. We spoke about the 40% maximum fuel for these guys. That will come into play as Danik Van Dele makes his way through on Eric Dubé, who's just made a mistake down at the bottom of the hill. That's turn 9. I think he just outbroke himself and went a bit too wide.
I think that's what happened, and you can see the consequences when we're running in formation like this. Danik Van Dele got by easily, Michael Terrafino got by easily, and now he's got to look backwards because Andre Bonatti, Joey Haynes, this is their chance to pounce. Overtaking comes at a premium, but let's take a look at what, yeah, right there. That's the last curb in turn 8. He just cannot get the car slowed down because you can't get the car slowed down when the tires aren't on the ground. And with those giant curbs through the highest speed of the track, the highest speed section of the track, then into one of the tightest braking zones of the track, if you end up hopping those curbs, you're going to have a very, very hard time getting that car slowed down.
It's a difficult braking zone anyway, but he certainly made it a lot harder by smashing that curb on the inside line there, and 2 positions lost straight away. Terrafino, by the way, just before that got through an Andre Bonatti himself, so that was actually 2 positions being made up, I think in the same lap from the Team B Ferrari driver, so that was a good lap from Michael Terrafino, and he settles in now trying to chase down the championship leader Danik Van Dele. Now, we spoke earlier about Alec Bergstrom not being here today. He's second place in the championship, but we also spoke about that drop week. Now, the drop week means that this week will obviously become his drop week. Previously, he scored 28 points in his drop week, which is a fantastic performance from Brockway. He's not finished outside the top 5 yet this season. So technically he won't actually be losing out on that many points to Danik Van Dele, so that 14-point margin won't grow too much. At the moment it will only grow to 16 points, so it's not too bad of a day so far. He's just got to pray really that Danik Van Dele doesn't win this race.
Well, Danik Van Dele has made up 2 positions already, and you can never count him out for a win. It looked like a far more dominant season it was going to be for Danik Van Dele at the start of the season when he went on that tear, when he won the first 3 out of 4 races. Kind of turned around recently. A mediocre by his standards run at Montreal, also failing to win at Spa last week, but if he keeps picking up these points, it's going to be hard to beat him for a championship, even if you are Alec Bergstrom, who's also almost just as consistent.
And Bonatti has been off as well at turn 9 by the looks of things. We go side by side through turn 6. My goodness. Ryan Chandler trying to hold on at the moment to 17th place. And here he is in the 75 car, just riding on board. Excuse me, this is Ryan Chandler trying to get through on Mark File, excuse me. Chandler just on board here in the Mercedes. That was way too wide from the BMW. Oh, and there's contact. There's going to be a big stack up here with Sean Carmody, Regan Chandler in the background of this shot as well. It's all going on down there at the final chicane. But just in front of these guys, Andre Bonatti lost out a load there. Regan Chandler now tries to capitalise on that mistake from Ryan Chandler, and now he can't quite make his way through at turn 1. But we really do have a train forming here for 17th position.
Mark File needs to be careful not to make that same mistake, because I think that Regan Chandler is going to learn from that. The mistake he made there was he didn't back up the corner enough. He just ended up running into Mark File, who basically opened up the door for him. But if that happens again, I think Regan is going to be much more conservative in the initial stage of the corner. He's going to get a better exit, and he will be able to blow by Mark File if he's learned from that previous mistake. And that's in the mind of Mark File right now. He knows he's got away with 1 mistake, but you don't always get away with 2.
Here is Andre Bonatti, and once again it's that curb at turn 8. When you get out of shape through turn 6, it has a real knock-on effect, and it did for Bonatti there. He ends up in the gravel and rejoins again, but it's such a difficult corner and such a difficult section there. Turn 6 itself is so committed, so fearsome on its own, but then you've got to brake and get down to a real slow speed for turn 9 while you're twisting through 7 and 8. And that curve, of course, has already claimed a couple of victims here today. It's been a very, very difficult couple of corners so far, and I don't think he's going to be the final driver to end up in that gravel trap here tonight. John Carmody trying to make his way through here on Chandler. This is Ryan Chandler in the Mercedes, and then there's Regan Chandler in the Lamborghini. It's a bit of a Chandler sandwich at the moment, if you like, in 16th position. Just up in front of these guys, Semkowicz makes his way through on Blake Ziti. But here's turn 6 we were talking about. Then the twisting and turning, braking. Everybody gets it right on this occasion. But this train is just so close, and they all look pretty inseparable for the moment. Carmody, though, trying to make his way through, eyeing up any opportunity he possibly can.
And this is a lot like the GT4 race from last night again. I'm going to keep referencing that. Even though it is a completely different class, completely different cars, completely different drivers. There aren't even any drivers here in the fixed series that were here last night, except for Blake Seaton. Just kidding, there's one. But it's looking very similar. Drivers are mostly being conservative here. Sean Carmody isn't really. He's trying to go for moves, but for the most part, it's just kind of a train, maybe a little bit of fuel saving. Everybody's going for that track position after the pit cycle, because that's what's going to be really important at a place where it's extremely difficult to pass. If you can't make the move on track, you have to make it in the pit cycle. That's how a lot of these races have been decided in previous weeks, and I'm sure the majority of the drivers in the field are thinking about making their pass off the track in the pit lane, except for these guys. Spencer Semkowicz trying to make a move, or maybe losing on another move.
Oh yeah, last lap he got through on Blake Ziti, and he's just been re-overtaken by the number 50. So he drops back down outside the top 15 for another time. But nearly 10 minutes into this race, I have to say I was expecting maybe a little bit more aggression from these drivers, but in terms of making overtakes, it is tricky, as you say, and making overtakes in the pit lane is a lot easier, but by no means easy at the same time. This is the battle for 5th position all at the same time. Eric Dubé holding back Haynes, Morales, Caputo, and Roy Brown is trying to get involved as well. He's a few seconds back for the moment. You can see the Team Beef driver in the background there. Dubé got his hands full here, but 3 Mercedes just in behind, not able to pose much of a threat for the moment. Although 10 minutes into this race, we are definitely in the pit window now, where you can pit and get to the end on fuel. And so maybe a few of the drivers will start to eye up that pit lane and maybe come in a little bit early.
It's possible, because getting out of traffic is helpful here. It's not like a track where you really want to be with a group of drivers. Like at the Daytona road course, I'd say you'd want to come in with a group of drivers just to maximize the amount of draft, the amount of help you're getting on the straights. But here, you're getting held up in a train. If we compare Fred Gallini, who's in the lead of the race, of course he was the pole sitter. He's the fastest of anybody. We're going to ignore that anecdote. We got trouble here in turn 9.
Philippe Magnan is one of them, along with one of the Mercedes there. I think Steve Bammer is the other driver who's off the road there for VHR. And there's some damage there for the ASR Porsche, I'm afraid. Is he tracking straight there, Magnan? I don't think so. I think there is a bit of damage there that will have to be repaired. This is what happened. Magnan tries to... Oh, and he gets hit hard there by the 21 Ferrari. That's David Boucher, who probably feels awful with himself there, because that's just an innocent mistake by him, and it's had drastic consequences for 2 other drivers.
Drastic consequences, and we're going to talk about it all of this race, all the next race. It's just high commitment. Let's ride on board here with the number 21. It's completely normal. He doesn't even hop the curbs. He just brakes way too late, and that's so easy to do, especially when there's 2 cars in front of you slowing each other down. It's an innocent mistake. I'm sure we've all made it before, but yeah, it just has disastrous consequences, and he bowling balls, or I should say cricket balls. It's Australia. A couple cars out of the way.
Absolutely. I'm sure they play bowling in Australia as well. Indeed, Boucher certainly was there. I think he was just a little bit out of shape through turn 6, really, I think. But also adding on to the fact that he said there, broke a little bit too late, unfortunately. It's had tremendous consequences, but not in a good way for those 2 drivers. I think it was Hoskins and Magnan, actually, rather than Steve Bammer. But either way, both of those 2 drivers in the pit lane at the moment. As we go on board with Joey Haynes, one of the most impressive debuts we've ever seen in the GT3 series from him last time out at Spa. Ended up, I don't think he quite grabbed the top 5, he ended up in 9th place. He grabbed a nice top 10, and he's knocking on the door of that top 5 here today. What an introduction he's had to this series.
It's been a great start to the season. It's unfortunate that it started halfway through, because I think if Joey Haynes was here from round 1, he would be competing for this championship, and he might just be competing for this top 5, because that was not a great run out of the final corner by Eric Dubé. We know this Mercedes is faster in a straight line than that Ferrari. Joey's going to close down into turn 1. He could have peeked to the inside there. He could have gone for a move, but I think he's content to wait for just a little bit longer. We've seen so many times a late move to the inside into turn 1 ends in getting blocked late, getting wrecked late. So Joey Haynes thinks discretion is the better part of valor here. He's going to hang back, wait for another shot, hope Dubé makes another mistake.
Just see him there hanging on from Rodrigo Morales as well as Haynes. Morales' his teammate, by the way, Andre Bonatti, made a nice move into turn 1 there. Roy Brown has been displaced from that 9th position, and he's down to 10th. After that, as we get very close, going up towards turn 6, Haynes thinking about it, but once again, staying behind, and he can be sure lifting off and saving that little bit of fuel once again that will help him in the pit stop window that is coming. Morales just gaining a little bit from that as well. Hugo Caputo watching on from behind as well, and Andre Bonatti tries to make some inroads. Talk about waiting around and saving that little bit of fuel. One driver who's not waiting around certainly is Bonatti, looking to make up for that early mistake.
And he's basically been put in a position where he needs to be aggressive. He's on the back foot from the beginning of the race, essentially, and he could save from there. He could do something unorthodox, but he is very, very hungry, and he wants to get back in the position that he probably thinks he deserves. But he has to be careful. He doesn't want to fight too hard with Joey Haynes here, because Haynes is pretty clearly faster than Eric Dubé. He will get by him, I think, eventually. So if Morales gets a chance, I'm sure he will try and fight with Joey Haynes, but I think the best move here is just to let Joey eventually get through. Or heck, just stay behind him, save a little bit more fuel, and hop them both in the pit cycle.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea here for Haynes, and a great position for him to be in, to be able to save so much fuel in this place right now. He's clearly faster than Dubé as well, so when they eventually pit, I'm sure he'll be able to make up some time through an in-lap and out-lap, whatever it will require. He's in a very strong place. There's Joey Haynes with that 9th place, as I mentioned, on that previous race. A real tremendous performance from him on that occasion. Not as good as Eric Luke, of course, who won the race in the end. His first real good race, his first clean run at a good race here in this season. He'll be very glad to have got that win under his belt now at Spa. Unfortunately, not taking part in this race here today. And we do see slightly lower numbers here, but you can be sure some of it is down to the fact that it is a new circuit. Not everyone has gotten round to driving it and buying it just yet, but they'll get there. And I would thoroughly recommend it to anyone who hasn't got ownership of this circuit just yet on iRacing. It's a fantastic place to go racing. A fantastic place to drive on your own as well, particularly if you've got the V8 supercars. You like a bit of V8 supercar racing, it's a wonderful challenge. So we go on board with Sean Duhamel, looking at the slightly rearranged back end of Baron Glover. A look to the inside, but Duhamel backs out. Not sure where Glover actually got that damage there, but that will only incentivise Duhamel further to make this move for 12th place.
That is a very good question. I don't know where Baron got that rear end damage. We know his teammate Mark File got a little bit of damage in the run with one of the Chandlers. Don't remember if it was Ryan or Regan. It was the Mercedes. Yeah, it was the Mercedes that ran into the back of Mark File. But either way, Baron Hilton running with a little bit of mystery rear end damage. It'll be less hurtful than front end damage, of course, and luckily for him, that Mercedes is much faster than the Ferrari, but there goes Joey Haynes by in turn 3. That's an unorthodox place, and I assume there must have been a mistake in turn 1 for Eric Dubé to make that happen.
There absolutely must have been, because there was a lot of waiting around before then as well. Here it is. What happened here to Eric Dubé? Just not a great run through turn 1, and Joey Haynes just fancies his chances here. Up the inside at turn 2, Dubé gives him the room. They give each other room. That was very respectful racing indeed, and Dubé once again has been pushed out wide. Oh, off the road for Hugo Caputo. Tries to capitalise on it. He goes straight off into the gravel at turn 9. That was opportunistic, but maybe too much from the 36 Mercedes. He rejoins now, but he's outside of the top 10.
It's actually up ahead. That's Bonatti and Dubé. Actually, it's Morales and Dubé side by side. Dubé gets offline. Then Hugo just kind of met in the middle there with Eric Dubé. Probably could have lifted off a little bit more. They were bound to meet in the middle there. Now down pit road, Andre Bonatti has come down pit road. He's gonna take his losses here and take his pit stop. We're about halfway in the race. This is about when stops would normally happen. So who knows what Galini and Brockway are gonna do up front either. They'll probably want to split this race in half, and they're especially going to want to stay out of that lap traffic up ahead.
I was just about to mention it. This is a short racetrack, and you want to stay out of traffic at all costs. Let's see which driver is just up in front. It's Donald Olsen in the 413, who's just up in front of these guys at the moment, doing nothing wrong, of course, just running his own race. However, Fred Galini and Adam Brockway are not going to want to encounter him, if at all possible, and they're not going to have to, because he comes into the pit lane now, getting out of their way, so they'll be able to carry on for a few more laps as we once again go racing through turn 6 once again into turn 9 as well. It's 4-car battle over 9th position between Baron Glover, Sean Duhamel, Dave Peterson and Blake Ziti as well, who's managed to get up the order just a little bit throughout this race. These are exactly the kind of trains that expect to see maybe pit stops in the near future, although not on this occasion for any of them.
Dave Peterson in the last spot outside of the top 10. He's the only D Peterson in the field tonight. We usually like watching his sort of intra Peterson rivalry with Dale Peterson, spelled differently, of course, who actually had his best race of the season last week at Spa, but no Dale Peterson in the field tonight. Dave Peterson, though, has shown up tonight, and he will be guaranteed to win the D Peterson battle tonight, but he's going to hope to do a little bit more than that. 9th place is on the table because Baron Glover is just clogging up the road here, but Peterson's teammate Sean Duhamel is the first one on the scene. He's going to be the first one to get by if he can.
But here we go. Sean Duhamel inside line at turn 6. He wasn't quite brave enough to go for it last lap. Is he going to do it this time? Not quite enough commitment from him on the inside line there, and great commitment on the outside from Baron Glover to once again hold on to that place, despite the fact his rear end is looking a bit worse for wear at the moment, and it might just be affecting him ever so slightly as well. There is Peterson just watching on behind, watching his teammate try and make his way through on this Mercedes. Are either of them going to put it this time? Not quite. Nobody pits once again here. And so Blake Ziti is going to maybe have a go up the inside into turn 1, or maybe the outside. Here he goes inside, ducks inside, maybe a short cover there from the Ferrari. And he holds on to the place, does Peterson. So 11th is remaining his. Blake Ziti not quite able to do it, but if Duhamel wants to make this move, he really needs to be just that little bit more committed up the inside at turn 6, because he's getting into the right place. He's just not quite with enough commitment to actually make that move stick.
He's been very cautious, which is smart. We'll see if he decides to peek to the inside this time. I don't think he's been close enough. He is going to try it again, but is he clear enough? No, he's going to have to back out of it, and that's kind of smart because Baron Glover doesn't seem intent to leave him very much room. I'd be worried if I was going side by side with any driver through turn 6, but Baron really wants to keep this position. He's not going to leave very much room, and I think this is just a little bit of self-preservation by Sean Duhamel. He knows he's faster, but he needs a much more high percentage place to make a move than at turn 6. It's way easier to do it in turn 1. Unfortunately, though, the last corner of the track seems to be his worst corner of the track, and it just kills any chance of a run into 1 here.
Yeah, not quite good enough traction on that occasion, but the 617 really, I think, has a bit of an issue now, because while he's not been showing enough commitment to maybe make that move stick here on Baron Glover, Glover is actually now banking on Duhamel backing out on the way up to turn 6, so it's making the chances of a pass even less likely. But if he can get that better run off the final corner, then he's got a great chance into turn 1. He's just fast in the wrong place here, and not fast enough at all to make the move into turn 6 this time. He's not close enough, and he stays behind. Probably the smarter thing to do is to not make the move at all if you're not going to get through, because then you can save that little bit of fuel on the back of the Mercedes, as Rodrigo Morales makes a pit stop from 6th place. So now the leaders are really starting to think about coming into pit lane, and we really are getting towards that point in the race where they're going to need to, as the 2 Ferraris, the teammates, come in.
Mel and Peterson, VHR Racing teammates, they're both in here. Same time, I'm sure they were discussing this. I'm sure they're talking to each other in the cars. And now the question again, when did Galini and Brockway come in? They have nobody else in their battle. They've gapped Danik Vendale. They've gapped everybody else behind first and second. It's essentially a two-car battle here unless things go wrong, so they don't have to worry about covering anybody. They just have to worry about fighting each other, and that makes the strategy somewhat simpler. I also have to correct the record a little bit earlier. I said nobody in the field except for Blake Ziti was in the GT4 race last night. Of course Adam Brockway was in the GT4 race last night. He almost won. He should have won, probably, and he's in the pit lane now.
He follows Galini and Danik Vandale follows the two leaders in as well. They've got a long trip down to the end where they'll be. There's Michael Terrafino also came in, Joey Haynes. Eric Dubé looks like he's going to probably come in as well, judging by the rest of them, and he does. Roy Brown's still yet to come in. Baron Glover will be next, and so on and so on. Going to be pit stops galore for everybody. Can Brockway gain anything here? Oh, yes, he can. He's right on the back. Oh, they're nearly side by side. Coming out the pit lane, the two leaders, and the flash of the lights for Adam Brockway says it all. I'm coming for that position, he says, and Fred Galini is going to have a job in his hands, defending for the rest of the race from here.
And this is where everything gets turned up. Another GT4 reference from last night. This is basically the same dynamic we saw. Just the first 20 minutes of the race, 20-something minutes of the race were cautious running in a line, saving fuel, doing whatever you can to make sure you get to that first pit stop. And once that pit stop was out of the way, it was all out of the window. Everything is for the win now. And Adam Brockway in that BMW. Unfortunately, that's Dubé off the road.
Eric Dubé off the road at turn 2. It looks like he had some help as well because there were a couple of cars around him in Rodrigo Morales and Roy Brown who may have been involved, and if he doesn't get going quickly he'll be involved with another train as well, currently being led by Jean-Francois Champagne, who's made an early pit stop work. It was Rodrigo Morales who was up the inside of him at turn 2. Wow, it's a difficult one to call that one there, but I know where Dubé is going to lay the blame. It's a racing incident for me, surely. The two of them just almost met in the middle.
A little bit of net code there. There wasn't any real contact, but that was a late dive, and that was a dive that doesn't usually work for Rodrigo Morales. We saw Joey Haynes make that move, but that was very, very aggressive, and he was lucky, ironically, that it was Eric Dubé that gave him all the space to make that move work. So it's a move that doesn't always work, and it definitely did not work. Rodrigo Morales turns Eric Dubé around. Car doesn't look too damaged. It wasn't heavy contact at all, so he should be able to pull away from this little train of Ferraris behind, but that's essentially going to be him dumped down to 9th unless there's more mistakes up ahead.
It certainly will. This is the train I was talking about with Jean-Francois Champagne. It's not quite a train that it was earlier, but Hugo Caputo also involved. Remember, he went off earlier. Looking to recover as Eric Dubé's off again. He's gone for a spin at turn 4 this time. Remains to be seen whether he got help with this one or not, but he's waiting a long time to get going again. Has to reverse. Doesn't get beached on the curb, thankfully, and gets going again before another couple of cars that get onto him. This is what happened. It's on his own, I think.
Yeah, no help there. Just gets lots of oversteer there through the middle of the corner. The ABS starts acting up. The traction control starts acting up, and once you're spinning like that, there's little way to save it, and it gets even worse for Eric Dubé. It got bad. He lost his chance in the top 5, and now it gets even worse. He's going to be fighting for the scraps in the bottom of the top 20, and now he's got a little bit of damage from scraping the Armco on recovery too.
Yeah, a real shame for the driver that was running inside the top 5 not so long ago. We look at the leaders. Fred Galini versus Adam Brockway is on here. Audi versus BMW. A great fight surely brewing in the final 9 minutes of this race, despite the fact there's probably 7 or 8 laps to go here. Plenty of racing yet to come, and Brockway has just got to plot his move from here, although he's not really showed any signs of even attempting to make that move just yet.
This hasn't been close enough. It almost looks like last night when he was in that Aston Martin, he was just hanging back, but last night he had 2 GT4 drivers fighting with each other. He had Sean Campbell, he had Michael Diaz. They were fighting with each other. That brought him into the fight. Now he's all on his own. He's got to pass Fred Galini on his own. Luckily, though, there are some cars ahead that are going to pose a challenge. They're going to get by the lapped car, the Mercedes. I believe that might have been Ryan Luna, no, that's the 520. That's Brian Hoskins getting out of the way. But Ryan Luna is up the road. Steve Bammer's up the road. There is going to be lap traffic, and in some of these sections of the track, it's impossible for lap traffic to get out of the way. Fred Galini is hoping that he doesn't reach them there. Adam Brockway very much is.
I think they're going to get to the back of and maybe pass Ryan Chandler as well by the end of this race, although it's going to be fairly close. There's still definitely 2 or 3 lap cars coming up for these guys for the remainder, and Adam Brockway is closer than he was maybe 1 lap ago, although it's not a great exit off of the final corner for him. It gains to over half a second again, and the BMW pulls out the way. That's the BMW there of Ryan Luna. We were expecting to get lapped in the next couple of laps, and he gets well out of the way of the leaders, so fair play to him for that one. And Galini and Brockway are able to continue their battle without interruption, although Galini looks like he has control over this race at the moment.
This is actually a pretty similar track to Montreal when you think about it, where Fred Galini got his first win. This place is as close to a street circuit as you can get on a natural terrain road course, and Montreal is a hybrid between a street circuit and a natural terrain road course. So they have more similarities than we thought. And just like at Montreal, the walls come fast and they bite very hard. And who is that in the wall? That is Regan Chandler in the Lamborghini.
Let's see if the Ferrari off in front and spins straight into Regan Chandler, who was an innocent party in that one. There might have even been Eric Dubé benefiting from that, actually. Could have been Mathieu Gagnon who was the car that got into the side of him, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to find out, but I'm afraid for Chandler off the road and drops down the order fairly heavily there as we go back to Hugo Caputo, looking to maybe recover a top 10 here, and it's still on for him, but he just needs to make more progress. He goes flying through turn 6, and I think he's learnt his lesson from making moves at turn 9, because I think if this was maybe 20 minutes ago, he would have gone for that.
Well, he certainly accidentally tried to go for it. He was 100% on the brakes, I think. There was 100% brake power under that car when he was braking for turn 9 there. I thought he was going straight into the back of Dave Peterson, but well done, Hugo, getting that car slowed down. It's a fast Mercedes, though. It's a Ferrari that's also fast, but slower than the Mercedes in a straight line. So if Hugo can get another run into turn 6, he has shown that he really likes to go for that move into turn 6 and then down into turn 9 after that high-speed section, which is very worrying if you're Dave Peterson. You want somebody who's a little bit more prudent behind you, but no, you've got Hugo Caputo. He wants way more than this.
He's going to try and make his way through, and I think he's going to be able to get Baron Glover here as well before the end of this race. Whether he can get a top 10 remains to be seen. He's running out of time, really. Just over 5 minutes to go here in this GT3 Fixed Series race at Sandown. And even Peterson now fancying his chances. Look at how much faster Caputo is, though, through turn 6 there. If it was a more inviting overtaking opportunity afterwards, then he would be going for it every lap. But I'm afraid it's turn 7, 8 and 9 which present themselves after that fast left-hander, and that does make life quite difficult. That's not a bad run out of turn 1 there for Caputo. Is it going to be now where he makes the move finally, once and for all, into turn number 1? He's got the slipstream. The main straight is long, but not long enough for the 36, or is it? He's going to make a dive anyway, up the inside, and he had to back out of that one at the end because he wasn't going to make the move.
Tried to scare Dave Peterson offline just a little bit there. Didn't quite work. Dave did go off track a little bit, but mostly kept it together, and Hugo's getting very aggressive, almost in that Pertec wall there on the exit of turn 4. That wall is easy to hit if you're not paying attention, and Hugo is just throwing all the spaghetti at the wall here, and none of it is sticking, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not going his way, and there's only a few laps for it as well. Only 4 minutes to go, and still 1 and 2 is Fred Galini and Adam Brockway. They did lose both a little bit of time on a lot of the drivers behind them on the previous lap. That might have been down to a little bit of traffic, though, because recently they have passed Regan Chandler, Steve Bammer as well. But it didn't present an opportunity for Adam Brockway to be able to make his way through. These guys make their way over the line. They're over half a lap now behind Fred Galini and Adam Brockway. Will be making their way towards the back end of the circuit as we look at this now for Peterson. Yet another non-move into turn number 1. We go on board with the Ferrari now, trying to make his mark. Somebody already has made their mark on the back of Baron Glover here with the Bit of damage to that Mercedes, but it's not hindering him enough. Dave Peterson in the slipstream now. As we saw with Sean Duhamel before, great run into turn 6 for this Ferrari, which is so strong on this back straight. Inside line now on the 93 car. He's further alongside and more in front than his teammate was before. Baron Glover's got a job to do around the outside, but he can't do it. And this invites Hugo Caputo as well, but Baron Glover finally loses a place. Dave Peterson is up into 11th.
Welcome back to the party, Hugo. Now you've got a fellow Mercedes to get by. And Dave Peterson up into 11th, right behind his teammate. Through the final corner, Peterson struggled a little bit through here the last lap around, but he looks like he's got that back under control. And the Mercedes might be faster in a straight line, but I don't think Baron's going to be anywhere near close enough to go for a move again into turn 1. But he does have to look back now at Hugo Caputo, his fellow Mercedes, who was so aggressive, who lost touch just a little bit after a mistake. But now he's back with him. And Sean Carmody's joining the train as well. He's made up 10 spots in this race.
He's had a remarkable recovery through the field and a great drive, especially since we haven't seen much of him, which is often a good sign because it means you're not getting involved in incidents and the like. Caputo, though, locking in now, trying to get through Glover. He's not going to have the same advantage on the back straight that Peterson does because they're in the same car here, although it won't stop him from trying. Inside line at turn 6, it's such a strong corner for him, but he's not far enough alongside. And he's having another look at 9. Oh, it's so close between the two. And Baron Glover gives the space as well. They're side by side going into the final chicane. If he goes around the outside of the first pot, he'll get the inside for the final corner. And that's exactly what he's done. Caputo up the inside, although Baron Glover holds on around the outside. Was not expecting that at all. And 12th place remains in the hands of the 93.
How often do you see that around the outside at turn 13, the final corner? That's remarkable stuff, but they're still going to go side by side into turn 1. Glover's going to hang on. He's going to go way off the road, but he will be clear of Caputo for the moment. Carmody almost gets into the back of Caputo, but Hugo's hungry. I think he's going for the same move here into turn 6, or not. He's going to get held up. Glover almost went off the road there, and ZD's around in the background.
CT and Mark File making contact in the background as side by side for Carmody. Outside line. Is he on the outside of Baron Glover here as well? Is he going to take 2 for 2? We're going to go free wide into turn 6. We've never seen this before. But up the inside and around the outside goes Sean Carmody. That is unbelievable. Around the outside of 3. He makes it work, but he's been served at turn 9. Baron Glover gets into the side of him, and all of Sean Carmody's work is going to unravel in front of his eyes here as he rejoins the circuit in a 3-point turn. What a shame that is for the number 40 Audi, who made a spectacular move, but it all fell down very quickly.
Hugo Caputo was very, very smart there. He backed out of the 3 wide. He knew, just like I did, that 3 wide does not work through turn 6. He backed out of it, and he has actually picked up the spoils because Carmody's off. Glover had to slow down because he knocked the car off, but we actually have the checkered flag here. Brockway turns Scalini.
The leaders make contact on the final corner of the race. Adam Brockway had to throw something at it, and somehow Danik Van Dale is going to win at Sandown in unbelievable circumstances. Danik Van Dale takes another win. It's his 4th of the season, but by far the most unexpected. Frank Galini will come across the line. He'll be furious with Adam Brockway at the end of that race, but they end up on the podium just ahead of Michael Terrafino. What drama we have seen right at the very end, with Adam Brockway trying to make that late race move. It was the only overtaking opportunity he had all race. He tried to take it at the final corner, and in the end, him and Frank Galini both go around.
Can we go to Sandown every week now in every series? If this is what's going to happen, that is just insane. And it's insane that it's happened 2 races in a row, and ironically in reverse fashion to what happened to Adam Brockway last night. It was Michael Diaz who made the late send. Here he is. Yeah, that was never going to work. That was way too late for Brockway. And Danik Van Dale says, this is exactly what I was hoping when I saw you guys close on the relative. I never thought it would actually happen. And there he goes. He wins for the 4th time this season. Who'da thunk?
Brockway gives the position back to Fred Galini, but the damage was done right here. Deary me. Brockway had to do something. He wanted to throw something at it, but in the end, it was too much. Fred Galini goes around. He is denied a second race win this season. Brockway can't add to his tally of wins either. And the two of them come across the line in second and third, both behind Danik Van Dalen, who at the end will not believe his luck that he's able to win that race and extend his championship lead to over 20 points. Galini and Brockway round out a disgruntled podium, with Michael Tarafino just missing out. Joey Haynes gets into the top 5 for the first time this season in only his second race, as Andre Bernardi finishes in 6th. Rodrigo Morales just behind his teammate there in 7th. Roy Brown, Jordan Hamlin and Jean-Francois Champagne round out your top 10. In 11th, it was Dave Peterson. Hugo Caputo dropped outside the top 10 with that incident at turn 9. Baron Clubber lost out on a few places towards the end there to finish 13th. Glenn Banco was 14th ahead of Eric Dubé, who also had issues throughout that one. Blake Gt 16th ahead of Sean Carbony after his late spin. Matthew Gagnon was 18th ahead of Ryan Chandler. And Mark File, the final driver inside the top 20 and the final driver on the lead lap. Steve Bammer was just off of the lead lap there ahead of Ryan Luna, Donald Olsen, Regan Chandler, Dave Boucher, your top 25. Brian Hoskins did see the checker flag, unlike Spencer Semkowicz, Philippe Magnon and Kyle Strachartz, who all failed to see the checkered flag. Well, what a race that was, and what is it with Sandown and late race finishes? That was absolutely unbelievable, and we are going to speak to the man who probably believes it least out of all of us. Danik Van Dalen, winner here in the GT3 Fixed Series once again for the 4th time this season, but that was unexpected to say the least. Just talk us through your emotions when you saw the two leaders facing backwards through the final corner as you approached them. What were you thinking?
Honestly, I didn't even know that was the P1 and P2 guys. But after that, goddamn, I was so happy. I think I'm really lucky about this win. I didn't think the P2 maybe send it, or maybe the P1 make a little bit mistakes. But well, I'm glad about the P1 finish, and yeah, it's quite lucky of my part. So I'm happy about that.
Absolutely, and it might as well be as well. You've extended your championship lead, of course, and we're going to the Hungaroring next for the start of the final 3 races of the season. How are you feeling about that race and the final 3 races overall?
For the 3 next races, some circuit I know more, so just hope everything gonna be good. And well, maybe some next race I'm gonna lose the car. Who knows?
Who knows? We hope that you'll have a good race though, and we look forward to seeing you next week. For now though, celebrate this win. Congratulations, of course, on P1, and thanks very much for coming to have an interview with us.
Yeah, thanks to you guys to broadcasting.
Thanks very much. Danik Van Dalen there, winner here at Sandown. And of course, we've got another interview before we're done with the GT3 Fixed Series with Fred Galini, who now joins us. Fred, thanks very much for coming to join us. I know it's not the situation you wanted to be joining us with. P2 today, but it all unravelled, of course, at the very final corner of the race. Just talk us through your side of the story, really, from that final lap.
Yeah, I think, me and Adam had a really clean race. He was respectful all race. I don't think he meant, obviously, to take me out at the last corner, but he saw an opening there and got a little too aggressive, and I think it was a bit too aggressive on his part for the space that he had, and he just pushed me off track. I don't think it was intentional, but it is what it is.
Absolutely. I mean, you're in a great run of form at the moment. Your 3rd pole of the season here earlier today. Do you feel like you're really getting to grips with this Audi now? Do you feel like you're improving as this season goes on? Because it certainly looks like it.
Yeah, no doubt. This is my first time ever doing league racing, so beginning of the season was a bit of an adjustment to get used to the times and the qualifyings and how everything's run, and especially the Audi. I'm definitely getting more comfortable with it now, and we'll see how it goes, but I feel like I'm in good form right now.
Absolutely, and we look forward to seeing that continue for you over the final 3 rounds. Fred, thanks very much for coming to join us. Congratulations on the 2nd place, nevertheless, despite everything. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you again in the next few weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. Fred Galini there, 2nd place here today at Sandown. Well, Joey, that was absolutely unbelievable. Now you can see the slow-mo once again. Adam Brockway getting into Fred Galini at the very final corner of the race here at Sandown. That's going to be one of the images of the season for all the wrong reasons, if you're Fred Galini, of course, but what an unbelievable finish that was. I don't know what it is about this race circuit and final lap finishes like that, but we've just had another one.
It's got to be the difficulty of actually making a pass. It's so hard to make a move that when you get desperate like that on the last lap, when you want the win that badly, especially if you're Adam Brockway, who arguably should have won a race last night. He wanted to win tonight, and he just got a little bit overzealous and made a mistake. That's all it is. Nothing more you can say about it, but another crazy race, and loading in now, we've got another crazy race with even more cars. Who knows what's going to happen in the GT3 Sprint Series? We've seen enough crazy stuff over the last 2 races here on Race Spot. What next? Emu invasion? It's Australia. Anything can happen.
Absolutely. We'll see what happens, of course. A few things to run through, of course, before we get down towards the GT3 Sprint Series qualify, which is coming up in just a few minutes' time. Of course, the standings looking the way they are at the moment, a little bit less close than we see in the fixed series. However, it is still all to play for, with Guillaume Levesque having to take his drop week last week. Andrew Waring closed in, but it was, well, actually, the gap did actually extend because of the way the drop week works. Waring and Morales now on the same points at 32 adrift, with Vincent Trepanier in that 4th place and Michelin Green rounding out the top 5. You can see there. These are the pro standings, of course. We do have the AM standings to look through as well. Currently being led by Nick McLaughlin in that car. Just 7 points, though, separate him and Ryan Patrick here in this championship. Clayton Ham and Kwok Nin are quite close themselves. However, they're quite a few points adrift now of Nick McLaughlin, now the leader of those standings. So it's certainly all to play for here in the GT3 Sprint Series, Joe. We'll start with the AM standings as they're on screen at the moment. Only 7 points between McLaughlin and Patrick. It's going to be a great fight to the end of the season between those 2 drivers.
And it was a great fight to the end of the race last week at Spa. They were together until the last lap when Patrick actually got a slowdown after La Source. He just got a little bit too wide into the runoff, got himself a slowdown, and that killed off the battle. But these 2 are the only 2 winners in the AM class this season. So obviously they're up at the top, but the fact that they're this close is just incredible, and that's not going to change. They're probably going to be just as close for the rest of the season.
Is that record going to change today? We'll find out, of course. In the Teams Championship, it's not too much closer. In the Pro Championship, 99 points separating the top 2 at the moment, with ASR Esports being spearheaded by Guillaume Levesque, leading those standings at the moment. Evolve SimSports trying to close in, and Andrew Waring is pulling his weight, certainly, but the likes of Ozzy Milwain and Jonathan Wager, unfortunately, losing out on a few points there. AM Class is closer once again. Only 21 points separate the top 3 teams, and McLaughlin and Patrick are on different teams, by the way, so that is keeping things very, very tight indeed in the AM category. YS Motorsports Black with Clayton Ham and Corey Precker are currently 2nd place. Ryan Patrick's team are leading that standing, with Nick McLaughlin's currently in 2nd, because his teammates Alex Wright and Luke Davis haven't really been scoring that many points so far, and so that means they are in 3rd at the moment. But it's all to play for in those team standings. Not too far away from qualifying, as you can see, just under 2 minutes to go. But I just want to circle back to those pro standings here, Joey. Levesque, it had an off day at Spa, but it remains to be seen how he picks himself up and dusts himself down at a totally different circuit and a different week. He's got to view it as that, a new week and a new challenge, and he can't let the demons of 1 week ago haunt him for any longer.
I think what really helps is the fact that it wasn't Guillaume's fault at all last week. He got taken out by a lapped car. He did nothing wrong. It was completely out of his control. He lost a race, which I'm sure is very disappointing, but it helps that it wasn't his fault. He's going to come in to this week with just as much confidence and just as much speed as I think he's always had. I don't think he'll be dwelling too much about it, but unfortunately for him, just like we saw in the last race, this is a very short lap. It's an even shorter lap now that we're in the sprint series. There's going to be a lot of lap traffic, Guillaume. I'm sure he's going to be scared every time he's lapping somebody now.
We're in the 105s, by the way, with Jonathan Wager currently leading the standings right now in practice, with Andrew Waring just in behind, and then Guillaume Levesque at third. And for the second place man in this practice session at the moment, Andrew Waring, I guess he's got to use this little opening as an opportunity. He's got to view it as a chance, maybe to get in the head of Guillaume Levesque. If he takes major points here today, this championship will certainly be on, and he's got to view this as a real big chance.
He definitely views this as a very big chance in the AM Championship, actually, just in practice. Of course, practice times aren't the most important. We'll care more once qualifying positions come out, but the top driver in practice was actually Rob Campbell, then Ryan Patrick, then Quacknin, then Clayton Ham, then Nick McLaughlin, down in 5th. So could be a little bit of a shake-up in the order. Checkered flags out on practice now, and we're ready to go qualifying.
We, of course, also have had a couple of car changes here as well for this race. You are allowed to do that, but you'll also take a 20-point penalty for doing so. 2 drivers in the week, Joey, have been deciding that maybe their original car pick was not for them, and they've decided to change, and it's no prizes for guessing which car they've changed to.
Yeah, it's a Mercedes festival out here today. Michael Broomhead and Andrew Hardman, 2 of the Britannia iSports drivers, have dumped the BMW finally. Hardman was doing decently well with the BMW, but clearly not decently enough for his standards. He's dumped it for the Mercedes. Broomhead has as well, and we will see them in the Mercedes tonight, I believe. Yes, Broomhead is here in the field, and I'm just scrolling through. Is Andrew Hardman here tonight? Yes, he is. Okay, both of them are here. Just had to check for sure. They'll both see how they can do in their new Mercedes. With how Hardman did in that BMW, if he thinks the Mercedes is better, we could be in for good things for Andrew Hardman.
Absolutely. But as you mentioned, it's really becoming a bit of a Mercedes festival. The top podium positions and more were taken by all Mercedes at Spa, and I don't think we've seen a race winner not driving a Mercedes just yet. Of course, the 4 in a row for Levesque was put to an end last time out by the driver of Diego Morales, but he is also in a Mercedes, and so is race 1 winner Moises Caraballo, who I'm afraid has not started the previous 2 races, and I can't see him on the starting list for this one either, I'm afraid. So it looks like he may well be done with this championship here this season, which is a real shame for the race 1 winner. But the drivers have completed their outlaps now. We're able to go and look through the field a little bit at some of these drivers and how they're getting on. This is Kevin Norris in the 774, wrestling with his Mercedes as he completes his first flying lap here in qualifying.
Kevin Norris, of course, another driver who didn't switch to the Mercedes this week. He switched a few weeks ago. He took that 20-point penalty for a mid-season car change. Hasn't had the success he'd want. I believe he had a little bit of a troubled race at Spa last week, if I'm remembering correctly, but looks pretty straightforward here. You can just see the speed you're carrying through turns 6, 7, 8, and 9 in this Mercedes. The heavy braking down into turn 9. Looks to the left just a little bit, then the final couple of corners, turns 11 and 12 and 13. Let's see, is he in second gear? Yes, second gear through the final corner, not first gear, and just the power to the line. This is going to be his first lap. Where's it going to put him as the tree populates on our left? P5, not bad.
Done a little bit better though. He's got into the 5, so has Jonathan Wager. Where is Andrew Waring down in 6th place? Guillaume Levesque was quite late to leave the pit lane, so we'll have to wait a little while for his first time to come over the board. But that's this is one of the Audis, Nick McLaughlin. We're waiting for this in terms of the AM battle because he's up to 5th in that one. Oh, excuse me, that's 5th in the AM category, 14th in the overall. Just wonder whether we can draw too much on McLaughlin's practice time. Is he struggling here at Sandown? Because he didn't have a great practice time, and he's a couple of attempts away from Patrick at the moment.
It's entirely possible, and I'll give a little bit of a teaser here later in the race. If you were here with us on the Montreal broadcast a few weeks ago, you remember we talked to Ted Lowendick for a few minutes during the race. And that might just happen. That might just happen with Nick McLaughlin during this race as well. It might happen. You'll see. You'll see about 20 minutes into the race, so stay tuned.
We'll see if if the race allows us to, because it could just be all guns blazing from start to finish. It's entirely possible. As Guillaume Levesque comes over the line, and he does also a 1 minute 5.9, I should say, and it's enough to get him the provisional pole. Interesting strategy call from him, though, to do that lap, go back into the pit lane before doing another one.
Yeah, at some tracks, it seems like the older tires are better on this Mercedes, and especially a lower fuel tank is better. But I almost wonder, with the long straights here and the fact that there's not a lot of high-speed corners, there's only this turn 6, 7, 8, 9 section. I think putting a little bit more fuel in the car might make the car sit just a little bit lower, get the wing out of the air a little bit, and make it a little bit faster in a straight line. But I don't know. I'm not a GT3 setup developer, but I think that's what Guillaume Levesque might be doing. His teammate in the AM class, Alexandre Breton, is coming out of the final corner now. Of course, an AM driver, probably not going to be up there with his teammate Guillaume, but it could be a good lap time here. 107.3 rather. So not all that great for Breton. He's got work to do here.
He has. So has Michelin Green, 5th place in the standings for him, but he's currently behind 3 of the AM drivers at the moment. Desjardins, Campbell and Patrick, your top 3 in AM at the moment. It's a bit of a shake-up at the moment in that category. As we go over the halfway mark in this qualifying session, the 19 of Michelin Green makes his way towards the line now, and it's no quicker than he's managed before. He's going to have to try again. But another driver, he's not getting to grips really with this circuit either, although he's built this season more on a consistent run of top 10s. He's only been in the top 5 on 2 occasions, and the other 3 occasions he's been actually in the race. He's only finished in that 10th position, so he's built this more consistency than anything else, as Mark McDonald makes his way out the final corner and over the line as well. Also not managing to get into the 5s. It's at 1 minute 6.6.
Improves by a 10th, but unfortunately he only improves by 1 position with that 10th. Here's Arnaud Genet, the hardest working guy in the PRL, the chief road steward, always putting together those investigation videos for all of the incidents across the many series. He's going to come to the line, but Diego Morales, last week's winner, he's going to beat Guillaume Levesque to pole on pace, and Genet's not going to be able to improve, but Levesque better hope that he can, because he might be knocked off pole here by the shock of last week.
Well, let's see. He's normally such a strong qualifier and races that way as well, but can the Triple Eight get back to the front again? Over the line here for Guillaume Levesque.
Oh my God.
It's a 1 minute 3.3.
That's not legitimate. He must have cut the track.
That's not legitimate. No, he's not done turn 6 there, I would say.
I got my hopes up. Oh my God.
Dear me, that would have ruffled a few feathers. He's getting ready to go for one final attempt now, as reigning champion Devin Horvath makes his way up the final corner over the curves, and he goes into the pit lane unhappy with that qualifying, you might say. Off the road, Orange Nest certainly not happy with that. He's going to return to the pit lane as well, as we go to his teammate here, or one of his teammates anyway, for ASR, Marc-Andre Desjardins, to be taking a pole position in the AM category here. This would be a turn up for the books.
Yeah, we haven't seen much from Marc-Andre this season. I think his highlight of the season might be getting turned around by another driver in the first race of the season at Hockenheim. We haven't seen much of him since then, but this is a fantastic performance. 9th overall, pole in AM. He's never won a race in the PRL ever, and he might be on track for his first win if he can keep it literally on the track from that pole position. Great lap there for Dave Menino to hop up into the top 8 as well.
Oh, David. A little bit wide from Matt Hilton, but he's back going again, and we'll hope to improve on this lap time in the 4 car. Guillaume Levesque has, by the way, completed his qualifying. He's back to the pit lane now, having not improved. He will start from 2nd position here today. It's going to be Rodrigo Morales taking his first pole of the season. A nice pole position for him, and that's not a nice lap for the Audi driver there, ending up in the wall down the front straight. We've still got a few drivers out there on the circuit, but I don't think any of them are improving just yet. Nick McLaughlin makes his way back to the pit lane, having only qualified 6th in the AM category. That is a struggle here for him, and he's going to have to make his way through the field here in this race. Diego Morales certainly isn't, though. He is on pole ahead of Guillaume Levesque, and Jonathan Wager and Andrew Waring make up an Evolve Sim Sports row 2. ASR Esports Chrome are sharing row 3 with Arnaud Genet and Vincent Trapanier in that 5th and 6th position, with Andrew Harper newly in the Mercedes, using that well to go into 7th ahead of Dave Menino. Kevin Norris and Marc-Andre Desjardins round out the top 10 for the AM pole. It's Ozzy Milwen and Rob Campbell in second in the AM category. Michael Broomhead, also having changed car, is in 13th. Devon Horvath will be alongside him, with Ryan Patrick down in 15th position and third in the AM category. Richard Green is 16th ahead of Ted Lowendick. It's Clayton Ham in the number 7 car, who is 18th. Mark McDonald and Dave Bush the third round out the top 20, with Courtney and Nick McLaughlin rounding out row 11. Tommy Brisson and Caleb Lehrman will be on the 12th row together ahead of Miguel Angel Fonseca. There's going to be Alexander Breton and Ivan Tavitas, the final of the pro drivers. Sean Mulholland is in 28th ahead of Alex Wright and Corey Brecker rounding out the top 30. Then it's Christopher Rains and Phil Amaro, Matt Hilton, Dave Morse and Luke Davis didn't set a qualifying lap there. 35 cars worth of a grid here at Sandown, ready to race down towards turn number 1. It's going to be a very, very exciting race indeed. Looking forward to it. Let's see if there's a third last lap pass in a matter of 2 days.
I would not be surprised, and the fact that Guillaume Levesque is second here, that almost guarantees us for a good race up front. Whatever he's got up his sleeve, whether it's an interesting strategy, whether he can go for a zero stop like at Long Beach, not sure that's possible here. A little bit too high speed, I would assume, but crazier things have happened. And the fact that we were actually convinced for even a second that Guillaume Levesque could actually do a 103, of course the lap wasn't legitimate, but he's such an incredible driver. He's shocked us so many times this season that, no, it almost wouldn't be a surprise if he was able to pull an inhuman lap time off like that.
Absolutely. My first thought was to believe it. Yeah, that is a good point. Because any other driver, you certainly wouldn't. Expecting a lot of laps here today, by the way. 50% maximum fuel, as we just mentioned there. We just saw on that graphic. Otherwise, the same rules as for the sprint, for the fixed series. But this is an open setup race, and it's 5 minutes longer, heading towards 40 minutes here today. Still, of course, racing in 2nd of August conditions in terms of the time of day. There it is. Just see in the morning, mid-morning, 11 on the 30th of July, actually, not quite where we are today. However, 68 Fahrenheit. Tyres never really a consideration, though, around here. Much more of a consideration is everything else. But I think it's worth again. I know we talked about it in qualifying briefly, but Nick McLaughlin qualifies in 6th place here in the AM category. Just briefly before we get going, it's a difficult day, and maybe even a day that decides whether he will become champion or not of that category, because he's got a lot of work on his hands in this race.
Luckily for him, Ryan Patrick is also a little bit deeper in the field than normal. He's starting 3rd. 3rd and 6th are still separated by 3 positions, but Patrick is going to be just as in the wars as Nick McLaughlin is, so I don't think he'll be too worried. But if he does get turned around, if Patrick does bring it home in a much more optimal position, of course drop weeks come into consideration, but this could be a championship deciding round with only 3 to go after tonight.
It's a great championship setting up here. Top 3 in Pro separated by 32 points. Top 2 in AM, only 7 points. It is all to play for here in the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. And we're about to go racing once again for 40 more minutes of racing. The GT4s had a last lap pass at turn 6. We had to wait all the way to the final corner to know the name of the race winner in the GT3 Fixed Series. What will the GT3 Sprint Series have to offer as we go racing down under at Sandown? Here in this championship, we go racing Diego Morales with the jump over the line. It's all Mercedes mobbing the front 6 positions at the moment, and Morales has a great start. Ahead of Waring at the moment is Guillaume Levesque. Into turn 1 they go, slightly on the defensive there for Levesque, but around the outside goes Waring on Jonathan Wager. The 2 evolved teammates going side by side towards turn 3 and 4, but they single file themselves out. Levesque versus Waring will be a battle to watch through 2nd place, but once again the GT3s are getting through cleanly.
Every single driver in the field has made it through the first section of this first lap, and that is a beautiful train they've formed. It almost looks like when you spawn the AIs in here on a pace lap. It's just one by one by one by one. They keep flowing through. It's incredible. No mistakes yet through turn 6. This is the hardest time to go through that 6, 7, 8, 9 complex with those cold tires. Any mistake will be completely exacerbated by those cold tires, but it looks like everybody's clean. Looks like it's literally a perfect lap 1 for everybody in this field. That's pretty incredible.
Absolutely unbelievable, but they have done it. All 34 drivers that took the start of this race have gotten through without any sort of problems. There may have been a few bumps and scrapes here and there, but nothing major to report. Diego Morales completes lap 1 in the lead. Next, Levesque, Waring, Wager, Trepanier as well, your top 5. Nobody really getting away from the rest. You can see this field is exceptionally well matched. Morales there very close to the outside wall at turn 4, but this is going to be a close race between these guys. There's not a lot to separate them at the moment.
You don't really pull away from Guillaume Levesque in the PRL. He doesn't really go away. He's always with you. Even if you're ahead of him on track, even if you're behind him on track, you always seem to be stuck to him. You might get a little bit of false hope in your mind, and then once that pit cycle rolls around, suddenly he pulls something like a 5-second gap on you. And there's no Dominic Olivier in the field tonight to rival him like there was last week. Looks like Jonathan Wager's in trouble further back.
Yeah, got out of shape out of turn 9 by the looks of it. And he's fallen back behind Vincent Trepanier now into the Haston for Onus Ines. And he's slowing down again on the front straight here.
Must be a slowdown.
Must be a slowdown. And so he's having to defend from Andrew Hartman as well. Inside for Dave Menenoa, who's looking to take advantage, and there he goes up the inside at turn 1 in the Audi. It looks like the 5 car might make his way up to 7th, although side by side through the curbs at turn 3 and 4 into the wall for Hartman. It's hard to go side by side through there, as we've just found out with the 3 car, and he's all out of shape again. There's a real stack up now.
Amazing that he's safe. I think Clayton Ham saw his life flash before his eyes there as Hardman clipped the grass there coming into turn 4. And that's a new Mercedes for Andrew Hardman. He's just switched into this car, and he's just damaged the front already in that tire barrier. Just not enough room really left for him. I don't think Clayton Ham's actually going to lose it in turn 7, and that's huge damage. That's Ham done.
It's got to be for the 7 car. Clayton Ham is out of the race here at Sandown after huge contact with the wall. Getting out of shape at turn 6 is never nice, and that was a big impact for Clayton Ham, who will be out of this race for sure, or at least repairing damage for a very long time. No fast repairs in this series. You have to sit there and wait, as we see Devin Horvath here maybe making a move into turn number 1. He's staying behind of Michael Broomhead for the moment. Teammate, of course, of Hartman. Here's the replay. Clayton Ham, this is going to be a wild ride.
Perfectly normal. Oh, he clips the grass in turn 6. I thought he just got loose, but no, clips the grass, and then the car's bouncing, the car's on the grass. The 2 worst possible places for those brakes to operate, and there's just a very unfortunate and a very hard wall there for Clayton Ham. And that's really disappointing for him, because he was 3rd in the championship behind McLaughlin and Patrick. If they both had bad races tonight and he could have picked up the pieces, he might have had a real chance at fighting for that AM championship. But this is going to be disastrous for his hopes. They're going to be even lower than they were before tonight.
On board here with Michelin Green. 5th place in the overall championship. Oh, it's all out of shape for Marc-Andre Desjardins, and the lead changes. Rob Campbell goes through into 10th overall, but more importantly, in the lead of the AM category. He slots in behind Broomhead, just Desjardins, but that's a big mistake out the final corner, and Devin Horvath wants a piece of the action as well. Oh, the inside of this, all out of shape over the curb for Desjardins, and he's got to be careful of side by side through here again. Oh, he spins! Contact with Horvath, and they both go around. Side by side through 3 and 4 is so difficult, as those 2 have just found out. Oh,
I think that, yeah, no contact. Everybody got through without hitting them. I think that might have been 2 separate spins, completely unrelated. Let's watch here. Desjardins on the inside, Horvath and the BMW on the outside. I don't know if those were related. I need to see another angle, because I don't think. Yeah, here we go. Desjardins on the inside. Does he drive into Horvath here? Oh, yeah, there's 100% contact. He loses it, and then Horvath hits the curb, loses it as well. That's so unfortunate for a driver who is on track for his first win in the PRL, and just a little mistake, a little curb hop ends in disaster for him and for Devin Horvath.
Horvath had to just reversed to get out of the way and did get clipped by a BMW, but no major contact, thankfully, despite the fact he did end up on the racing line there, which wasn't great news. This is back in the pack though, to where the real AM battles are now. So Rob Campbell now leads in AM, followed by Ryan Patrick, and then in the third place we've got Nick McLaughlin already up to that third place, and there is Caleb Lehman, we're on board with him now in VR, and he will be looking to hold on to 5th place. He's just behind Quat Nin at the moment.
Caleb Lehman, I remember he had a strong start to this season, and he's kind of faded away in the last few races. We haven't talked about him as much, but this is another strong performance. And most importantly, it seems like it's been trouble for some of our AMs at the start of this race to keep it on the road. Caleb Lehman has kept it on the road in the first 7 minutes of this race, and he's just running a solid, consistent race right now. He's holding Miguel Angel Fonseca behind. He's holding Alexandre Breton behind. He's just hanging out in the train right now, and that's kind of as good as you can ask for. You don't have to do much work here while you're in this train.
No, not too. It's just to try and follow the car in front. He's having to go a bit defensive here, I think, from Fonseca maybe. You just hear the Audi in the background. It's so loud. Outside line into turn 1 for the Mexican. Oh, it's too late on the brakes and it's way too wide. And so he won't be able to make the move. And Alexandre Breton will fancy his chances, but he stays behind for the moment, forcibly. Fonseca, though, up on the grass, up on the curb. He will stay in front. And that's the battle over 6th place in the AM category. This is a really quite large train at the moment. These guys just getting detached from it slightly, but all goes up to Ryan Patrick, who's in that 2nd place. And it's a very interesting fight, as there's all kinds of change of position.
No.
And leader Rob Campbell goes off the road.
Rob Campbell, it's a curse to be in the lead in AM. Remember when Patrick and Nick McLaughlin qualified 3rd and 6th, and we thought this might be a night for a different AM to take over the reins? No, Patrick and McLaughlin are 1st and 2nd again, and that was not Rob's fault at all. He just got punted up the back by Michael Broomhead. We've seen that so many times there into turn 9, just too late in the brakes, and there's got to be an innocent bystander, and unfortunately it was our AM leader, and Ryan Patrick becomes the leader now, and I think Broomhead has just gone off as well. It's a terrible couple of laps for Michael Broomhead in this new Mercedes.
It is. Let's see what happened. Lamborghini.
Was that Rob Campbell's teammate? No, it was all Broomhead.
Whoa. What went on
I thought there might have been some payback there, but no, that was just a huge lockup from Broomhead, I think.
Well, you say lockup, but why? Because these cars have ABS. Why on earth did that car lock up so spectacularly? And then on rejoin, here he is again. Oh, he's having major problems with that car. Something is majorly wrong with that car, and unfortunately this BMW being on the receiving end of this. What has happened here to Michael Broomhead? Because he's having severe technical problems. And speaking of issues, Diego Morales loses the lead to Guillaume Levesque. Andrew Waring gets up into 2nd place. What has happened to race leader Diego Morales?
It's all kicking off here with 30 minutes to go. I have no idea what's happening. Broomhead finds some mystery technical difficulties after having an incident. Did Diego just get loose here, oversteer out of the final corner? No, he just took too much speed, clipped the grass, did very well to save it, not get into the wall, but just that one mistake is what can lose you the lead. Now Guillaume Levesque is up there, and another AM. Rob Campbell, did he get back into trouble? Oh, that's revenge on Michael Broomhead. We don't like to see that, but I guess you can understand where it comes from. Still shouldn't do it, though.
No, definitely shouldn't do it. But Rob Campbell frustrated, having lost a chance at a race win, possibly in the AM category here today. Real frustration boiling over there at the expense there for Michael Broomhead as we go out towards the line again. 10 minutes gone in this race, pretty much 9 laps, and Guillaume Levesque is all of a sudden leading, I should say. If you look at this order right now, you'd think it would be a boring race with Levesque, championship leader in pros, leading, Patrick and McLaughlin 1 and 2 in the AMs, but it has not been like that at all. It's been frantic. It's just that the best drivers have risen to the top again.
As always, and look at this for a new graphic this week. We've got 2 different tickers here for Pro and AM. Broomhead is actually down in the pits. I imagine he's both fixing damage he's accrued and attempting to recalibrate his brakes, probably, because that was very bizarre what was happening to him under braking. But this is a similar thing that we've seen every week. Guillaume Levesque once he does take the lead, he probably shouldn't be in the lead right now legitimately if there's no mistake from Diego Morales, but once he takes the lead, the driver behind is lulled into a little bit of a false sense of security because they think they can stick with Guillaume, but once he lights it up after the pit cycle, once he's done whatever his mysterious 7049 iRating GT3 strategy is, he tends to run off into the sunset. But Andrew Waring's hoping that doesn't happen.
Yeah, he's going to try and keep tabs on Levesque here. Needs to gain points, and quickly. Does Andrew Waring. Roughly at a rate of roughly 8 per race. So he just needs to get on with this a little bit. To put that into perspective, 8 points is the gap between first and fourth. So 7 points is the gap between first and fourth. So you can start to get the idea. Which is going to be hard for Andrew Waring from here, as Andrew Hartmann is recovering well, recovering better than his teammate, you'd say. He's knocking on the door of a top 10 again with Bitterly and Green just in front.
Hardman recovering, or at least trying to recover on his fellow Mercedes, Mitchell Ian Green. Not really any heavy damage on that Mercedes for Andrew Hardman. We saw him in the tire barrier there in turn 3, but he just nosed it in. It looks like it was soft enough for him to be just fine. Doesn't clip the grass in turn 8, looks perfectly clean. And Mitchell Ian Green actually a little bit of oversteer on exit there. He's slow. Hardman's moving. Hardman's getting aggressive. You can't make a move without contact here most of the time, as we saw in the finish of the last race, but Hardman's hungry. If he gets a good run here, and he does, he's going for the move into 1 here. He wants that top 10.
He's going to have an opening here at least, although Mitchell Ian Green just weaving to try and make sure that he doesn't. Slipstream for the number 3. Not really the chance that he was looking for there. And so he's going to have to stay behind even further. And we maybe now, nearly 15 minutes into the race, maybe now we are starting to finally see the phase of the race where people start to settle down a bit. It's been crazy so far. We haven't really seen the kind of follow the leader settling down that we got in the first race so far. Maybe now we'll finally start to see it.
Well, I don't think that's possible at Sandown, unfortunately. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. I should say fortunately for us that it doesn't seem to calm down, and that was a very easy move by Hardman on Green. Green just letting Hardman by. I think he sees that Andrew is much faster, he's much more aggressive, and he seems content to just hang behind here. Maybe try and stick with Hardman while he chases down a couple Mercedes further ahead of Norris and Milway.
Absolutely. It's probably the smart thing to do, as you say, but we'll wait to find out a little bit later on. Miguel Angel Fonseca, by the way, has been into the pit lane for the first get to a pit stop of the day. 11 seconds for him. That's roughly whereabouts he should be. So an early stop for him. Already got a few podiums so far this season, and looking for another one here today, maybe. But going to see where he ends up really after all of this. As we go out to the 3 leaders, who are already embarking on a bit of traffic. Just up in front here is Alex Wright in the Ferrari, and this is only going to close things up. Look at Levesque now trying to make his way through, and he'll be having flashbacks to last week with that kind of move. Andrew Waring all of a sudden a lot closer.
And it's almost impossible to get out of the way there. Alex Wright did find a way to get out of the way. Might have actually slowed everybody down a little bit more doing what he did, but he does the nice thing, gets out of the way, lets the top 3 through. Now Trepanier is going to get through. Jonathan Wager will get through as well. So very clean for all of the top 5 here to get through their first lapped car, but that is not going to be the last one. If you look just a little bit up the road, Miguel Angel Fonseca is about 7 seconds up the road, but they're going to catch him. They're going to catch a lot more lap traffic here.
Yeah, just with all due respect to Alex Wright, I think they'll catch Fonseca a little bit slower because he's already made a stop and he's a little bit higher up the order and runs a little bit higher up the order, so they might well catch him that little bit later. Team Levesque, though, in control of this race at the moment. He's got to be worried, though, about Andrew Waring in behind, not only because he's his championship rival, but Waring is sitting there and presumably saving fuel right now on the 888 car. So that's got to be a little bit of a concern to the leader at the moment, but clearly not as much of a concern for him to actually give over the lead. He still wants to lead.
He does want to lead, but saving fuel is just as important. And I've just seen in our channel, I believe Nick McLaughlin has shown up. Now that we've seen a little bit of a lull in the action, now that we're in a little bit of a holding pattern up front, pit stops are coming up soon. But while we have this break in the action, let's bring in Nick McLaughlin in P2 in AM right now. I'm going to drag him up here. Nick McLaughlin, welcome to the booth. You're our second experimental subject here. You started 6th. Did you think you'd be in 2nd right now?
Gentlemen, good to be here. No, I certainly did not. The Audi is quite the handful around here, but man, it's been a chicane of cars and a chicane of track to deal with here.
Thanks very much for joining us, especially through those first few corners. My God, just how are you feeling at the moment in terms of, you obviously said the Audi's a bit of a handful. Do you feel like you can maybe catch Ryan Patrick today? Is that a goal for you?
I'd like to catch. I've been able to save a little bit of fuel, not as much as I probably could have, but Ryan's got really good pace here, and it's going to be a nightmare to try and get around these 3 pro guys. So it's I think it's going to come down to if Ryan makes any mistakes, I got to stay close enough to capitalize on it. But if he keeps running clean laps, I'll have my work cut out for me, that's for sure.
Well, we'll wish you well and let you go back to concentrating now. But thanks very much for coming to join us, and good luck for the rest of the race.
Oh, it's a treat, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much there. Nick McLaughlin, a second in that is quite fair play to him, because that is hard to do. If you've never tried to kind of give an interview and drive at the same time at a circuit like this, then you should try it, because it's remarkably hard, and Nick's doing a very good job there, giving us answers while driving very quickly at the same time. Oh!
Off the
Diego
road
Morales.
from 3rd.
3rd place off the road. We'll get a replay to see what happened. Here it is. Oh, he's been pushing so hard through turn 6. Andrew Waring breathed a sigh of relief, because that was very, very close.
And that was our pole sitter. That's so disappointing for him. He's been having the race of his season. He gets turned by Mitchell Ian Green to make matters even worse. It's all falling apart for Diego here. If I was him, I'd be bringing it down pit road now. I've lost all this time. Might as well minimize my time loss here. Let's see. No, he's going to keep going. He's going to stick to his strategy, which is an interesting choice, but he's got a lot of overtakes to make now.
Very surprising, but because I would have done the same as you there. But yeah, I think that little bit of contact there was just born out of frustration, maybe, for Diego Morales, who drops out of not only 1st place earlier, but now 3rd as well. Well outside the top 10, into 18th place, just in front of Caleb Leamon there in the Ferrari. A real shame for the Mercedes driver, but he's back going again, and will try and recover what he can for the remainder of this race. Approaching half distance though, and it does mean we've now got 2 for the lead, Guillaume Levesque and Andrew Waring, and it looks like that fight is going to really happen after the pit stops, much like what we saw in the fixed series.
And I just hope they stick together after the pit stops, because so many times we've seen Guillaume Levesque just pull away, save a non-small amount of fuel, and he's able to pull a huge gap. Last week it did even out. Dominic Olivier did a pretty great job at holding with Guillaume. Unfortunately, he got a pit lane speeding penalty, which ended that battle entirely, and Dominic not here tonight, of course, so he's not here to fight with Guillaume, but Andrew Waring is putting up a great fight here. He's sticking with Guillaume. He's actually going to be able to save fuel probably behind Guillaume there in 2nd, especially down the 2 long straights. So hopefully Andrew Waring has done some practice here this week. Hopefully he's calculated his fuel numbers well enough. And after the pit cycle, I hope we have a straight fight to the finish.
I hope so. But as you say, Levesque is so good on fuel and so good with the pit strategy that he does often just pull away a little bit. Off distance then, we go over the line at the completion of lap 18, I think that was. And we will be completing 36 laps this race, so we have reached half distance in terms of laps as well. Ted Lowendick and Mark McDonald battle over 12th position at the moment. Obviously we've spoken to Ted Lowendick previously in race. Won't be doing that here today. Maybe after the race we'll be speaking to him, but always good to see him back out there again, trying to hold back McDonald at the moment. He's kind of forming this train that Nick McLaughlin is in at the moment.
Yeah, Ted Lowendick doing a pretty good job of holding this train behind. I hope he has his Zoom connected. I want to see what kind of Australian theme he's put together this week. But I think judging by the fact that we haven't seen it, he's taken that by the... Oh, there it... Oh, yes, Ted, you never let us down. I knew you'd deliver. Look at that.
Well, given how committed he's been in the past, I was actually expecting a live kangaroo there, but one in the picture will do. Yeah, he's really put the commitment in for the only one and only Australian round here of the GT3 series. Obviously, be seeing if he's cooked some goulash or something for next week at the Hungaroring. I don't know, but yes, he's out there at the moment, 12th place, just in behind Ryan Patrick at the moment by a few seconds, and trying to hold back Mark McDonald, and doing so fairly successfully. I mean, these Audis do seem to be struggling a little bit, though. They seem to be a handful, as Nick McLaughlin just said, and I think it's down to the curbs that we were talking about earlier. Obviously, all the GT3s don't monster the curbs quite as well as some other cars, but especially the Audi is not a fan of curbs like these.
It isn't. You can see the awkwardness with Ted Lowendick through those corners. But up in the Mercedes camp, it's a Mercedes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the top of the timesheets. They're not the best at taking the curbs. It's not like it's a monster truck or anything, but they seem very, very comfortable over the curbs. Even in this final corner where it's easy to hop that curb, get completely out of shape, ruin your run down the front straight, they seem to run it like it's essentially not even there. And we've got two ASR versus Evolve battles here. The one in the background is a little bit more spicy. Wager and Trepanier were weaving all over the place there, but Wager still not able to make the move, and I think he'd probably be best off just mirroring what his teammates doing a little bit further up and just hanging behind Trepanier here for the next couple minutes.
Looks like that is going to be what happens. A bit wide from Trepanier there, and here comes Jonathan Wager, maybe. Let's just have a listen here, see how much lifting off there's actually been going on.
None. He's going for the move here. He peeks to the inside. He wants this position. He's not content to stay behind. He wants to go join his teammate. And Trepanier, I think, smartly backs out there, lets him through. And Waring's through on Levesque as well. These two teammates are just mirroring each other at every corner. And I think that might have actually been a corner cut for Waring that caused that, because he's slowing way down.
Well, let's see here, because I think there was an attempt made there, and he lost quite a lot of time as a result. Let's see for Andrew Waring now as they go towards the line. Obviously, Levesque has gained a bit here, and he'll be trying to break the slipstream from there. Let's see what happened. Down towards turn 9, he went for the move, he went for the dive, but it was way too late on the brakes, and he has paid for that dearly.
It's pretty incredible that he actually got that slowed down and also didn't make contact with Levesque. It was a mistake that he made, but well done, very well done saving that, and well done to Guillaume Levesque as well. I saw him do a little jink to the right, and that was just enough to make sure that Waring didn't go pummeling into the back of him. It's a great calculation by both of those drivers, and they're going to join each other again as McDonald now getting by Lowendick. What happened to Ted through the final corner?
Me. Oh, off the road again for McDonald, struggling there, but he continues on. Ted Lowendick has to drop a place. Not entirely sure quite what happened there, but either way, McDonald is up to 12. Lowendick down a position as we approach 15 minutes to go in this race. We can't be too far away from pit stops, and now with that gap between Levesque and Waring, it seems less likely that the two will actually switch in the pit stops. If Waring has gained anything here, then he'll have to use that to close back in again, which is not ideal.
BMW on BMW action deep in the field. I don't think we've talked about either of these guys really all night. The 886 of Kwok Nin, currently third in class, actually, so we probably should be talking to him a little bit more. And then Tommy Brisson, that's a pro behind, so it's a pro versus AM battle here, not for position in either of their classes, but for overall position at least. Kwok not quite close enough to dive in there, but he's getting aggressive. He sees Nick McLaughlin up ahead, and he thinks he can probably take second if he can get ahead of this guy.
You'd think so, but it's going to be hard because you are going to have to pass Nick McLaughlin after that, so who knows. He's got the small task of getting through on Tommy Brisson, though, which is not going to be easy either. up the hill towards turn 6, and given these two are in the same car, it's quite difficult to really make any gains, especially at this distance. So there'll be a follow the leader situation down the hill towards turn 9. And Lynn's just going to try and size up his opportunity and make his way through wherever he can. They are both gaining though on that train in front. They're being started by McDonald and Lowendick really, who are fighting, and now Bush comes in. And so pit stops really are going to happen very frequently soon, because we're nearly reaching the fuel limit actually between these guys. Surely they can't actually go too much further.
I don't think they can, and 13 minutes to go, likely, as Guillaume Levesque finishes this lap. That'll be how much time is left, and he's going to want to get out of this lap traffic here. I think that's right again, up ahead, or at least one of the other Ferraris. Yeah, gets through one of the Ferraris, and Waring has completely closed down this gap as well, which either tells us that Andrew Waring has found a lot of speed over the course of this race, or it tells us that Guillaume Levesque is still saving quite a bit of fuel. I don't know, but we'll see. They don't come down pit road this time. They're going to go another minute, but how long can they go? Are we about to see another shock from Guillaume Levesque to go all the way? I knew I should have tuned into one of his GT3 fixed races. I should have seen if he could do this.
I think it's a step too far, although I thought it was at Long Beach as well, so you never ever know with Guillaume Levesque. I think what he did do though, once he realised that he couldn't break the slipstream with Andrew Waring, he just backed off and saved that little bit of fuel, maybe to get on terms with Waring in terms of this pit stop here. And so they're going to have quite a similar pit stop time, and then they'll figure it out after they've actually made their stops. So let's see what happens here really, as they make their way down the hill now towards turn 9 again. And will either of them make a pit stop this time around? We're approaching on half an hour into this race, and it wouldn't be a bad idea for either of them, because they're approaching a lot more lap traffic. And here they come. Guillaume Levesque is in. Andrew Waring decides to go on for at least one more lap.
He is going to have to hope that Miguel Angel Fonseca doesn't make any mistakes here. He's put himself in the danger zone here with a lapped car ahead of him, and with another lap having to go around the track. If he himself makes a mistake around this track, around this overcut lap, he's going to completely lose this gap. And now we wait for Guillaume Levesque's time in the pits, 10.8. Remember that number when Andrew Waring likely comes in the next time around, because that's going to dictate the gap here. They're probably going to run similar lap times on the in and out laps, but look for that fuel, look for that pit number.
Levesque was about half a second quicker than Wazier there, so that's interesting to note. But what will happen with this man right here, Andrew Waring? Oh, he's deep in the brakes there, very deep under brakes. Oh, he spins! He spins at turn 9, and that's it, surely now. Guillaume Levesque is surely going to go on to take the lead once again here, because Andrew Waring, pushing so hard, has made a mistake down at turn 9, and all hopes of a race lead have now gone.
Podium's gone too. That's going to be 4th or 5th place for Andrew Waring, unfortunately. And that's the danger of putting yourself in the danger zone there. I mean, that could have happened when he was chasing Guillaume Levesque around, but what Waring was probably doing on that lap, he was pushing as hard as he possibly could to make up that little bit of time, and unfortunately he just pushed a little bit too hard, and yeah, that's going to be the podium gone for him, and that's another notch taken out of his championship challenge. Hardman's going to come in as well. Waring's still sitting in the pit box. Here comes Levesque. It's going to be easy stuff here. He's going to take the lead over Trepanier by like 3 seconds, and it's going to be north of 8 seconds for Waring.
Waring will be at 4th at the end of this, so not on the podium anymore. But otherwise, the top 3 is unchanged. Wazier and Trepanier just gained places because of the incident there. And elsewhere in the top 10, it's pretty much the same as well. In AM, Ryan Patrick holds on to the lead ahead of Nick McLaughlin, who holds on to 2nd place. And pretty much everybody is in the same place as they were before. Diego Morales, though, has gained a bit of time. He pitted a little bit earlier on, and so he's been making some making hay while the sun shines, as they say. And he's up to 13th place. A nice recovery from Morales, but he'll wonder what could have been today as well, because he had great pace in the front 3 as well.
Top 10 might be out of his grasp. I think P11 or P11 in class, P12 overall will probably be his limit, and I can't see the AM lead changing unless there's an incident, which we can't rule out. The incidents on the final lap, that's been the story of every race we've run at Sandown this week. Danik Van Daly, I'm sure, didn't expect to win from like 5 seconds back. Anything can happen on the last lap, so even if you are Nick McLaughlin, you can't really throw away your hopes for the win, even with a 4-second gap, because this track is a dice roll, essentially.
It is. Levesque is very much in control of his own destiny, though. And on the opening laps out of the pit lane there, he did lose 0.6 of a second to Wager. However, he's still got 2.5 seconds. Could this race possibly come down to a bit of a pass later on? Well, let's hope that internet doesn't play a role, because that nearly did right there. Just under 9 minutes to go. It means there are roughly 8 laps remaining, I think, in this race. It will be 8 laps remaining. There's plenty of time for Wager to possibly gain as we go on board with another ASR Esports car. Caven Norris trying to make his way through on Ozzy Milway.
Yeah, Ozzy doing a solid job, a completely anonymous job in this race, but sometimes that's all you can ask for. And with the chaos we've seen over the last 2 nights, that's probably the best thing you can do at a track like this. So Ozzy Milway, another solid result, but Caven Norris is getting aggressive. You see the focus there. You see him getting a little bit out of shape through the final corner. He's got a run. Unfortunately, Ozzy Milway is also in a Mercedes. He too has a run. He too has a lot of speed down into turn 1, and Norris is going to have to hope for a better run at a turn 4 next time around, or maybe a better run at a turn 4, because he's all over the back. He's going to dive into the inside of Milway, and that doesn't always work, and no, that wasn't going to work. Milway hangs on.
Wow, that was a very aggressive dive at a corner. You do not see overtakes done very often, but Caven Norris gave it a go there. Thankfully backed out of it before there was contact as well, and so the two able to continue on with their battle afterwards, but that was aggressive, and he nearly gave it a good go as the clouds just roll over here in Australia at the moment. Still 68 degrees Fahrenheit out there, well, still in the high 60s, mid to high 60s I think at the moment. In terms of the track conditions, as we were talking about earlier on, it's a nice summer's day in some parts of the world, but down in Australia we are indeed at the other end of the spectrum with regards to the seasons, being in the southern hemisphere. But not something that's really a bother to these guys at the moment. Guillaume Levesque, though, certainly being bothered by Jonathan Wager. Another 3 attempts taken out of him on that last lap. The gap is 1.7, and there it is visually. Jonathan Wager will feel like this race is still alive.
And this is really weird because I can't really explain what's going on here. I haven't seen any huge mistakes from Levesque. I haven't seen any phenomenal laps from Wager either, really, but the gap has been coming down. Lap before, Wager was a full second faster than Levesque. Last lap, 0.3 of a second faster than Levesque. This lap, it looks like it's kind of evening out. If anything, Levesque seems a little bit faster on this lap than Wager is. He's pulled the gap to north of 2 seconds now. But whatever was happening to Levesque before, I don't know if he had to save a little bit of fuel, maybe he under-fueled the car, but what looked like was going to be a closer battle for the win, it looks like it's evened out again between these two at a comfortable 2-second gap. But if it starts to go down again, Jonathan Wager smells blood in the water. He's hungry. If that gap comes down below a second, he might have a shot.
Yeah, Levesque started out this stint in the low 7s, which is too slow, really. Well, Wager was in the mid-6s. Now they've both gotten down towards mid to low 6s now. As Miguel Angel Fonseca has been off at turn 9. Already out of shape, hit the curb, and then does he get hit? No, he's avoided, thankfully. But either way, he does drop places. Speaking of Audis, Dave Menanoa has got a bit of a job to do here, because Hartman, Will Wayne, Norris, they're all in that shot right there in what is quite a busy part of the racetrack, actually.
Dave Menano's the only Audi in the top 10. It goes Mercedes, 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 Audi, Mercedes, Mercedes, Mercedes. So he's in a very strange country here. He's the only Audi in a sea of Mercedes, but Andrew Hardman, who is one of those Mercedes, is really looking strong here. A little bit of damage on the nose of that car from the incident a little bit earlier, but it's not actually hurting him too much somehow. We know it's faster in a straight line than the Audi is. Only 4 minutes and 50 seconds left in the race, so if Hardman gets a chance to make the move, he's going to go for it, but he's not close enough this time, or is he? He peeks out at the last second, but no. I think he was just trying to scare Menano there. That wasn't a legitimate look at a move.
It was just a little look, but no decisive move made there. This is the battle for 6th, and as you say, the only Audi inside the top 10 at the moment. Ryan Patrick is just outside the top 10 overall. He is in a Lamborghini, of course, and will be gaining a few points in that AM Championship on Nick McLaughlin as we see this battle again. Menanoa goes defensive. Hardman is going to have to make this way around the outside of turn 6, which is a brave one, and he doesn't decide to go for it there. 4 minutes to go, 4 laps to go at the line, and Menanoa really has his hand full in terms of holding on to this place.
Luckily, it's the weird evening out that we see at this track with so many pairs of drivers. Menano is stronger than Hardman out of the final corner, and that's the most important corner in terms of overtaking on this track. It's so frustrating when you're a driver behind. You're a driver behind in a car that is faster in a straight line. You think it's a perfect overtaking opportunity into turn 1, but you just can't nail that last corner. And Hardman is just struggling in all the places where he needs to not be struggling, and he's faster than Menano in all the places where it doesn't even matter. Oh, well, Menano almost loses it, but he saves it, and that is going to be even more frustrating for Hardman, but now he's close. He's going to go for the move into turn 6.
He's going to give it another go, as he did last lap. He's going to be a force to go around the outside. Will he be a bit more committed on this occasion? Here he goes. He's level more or less with the Audi now. He's going to need maximum commitment through turn 6. Side by side they go. This in the battle for 6th. Oh, out of shape for Menano, who saves it remarkably. Hardman goes off the road. He gave it all. He risked everything, and unfortunately he's lost it all as well. He drops to 9th place as Menano somehow hangs on.
I don't know how Hardman was the one who ended up going off the road there. Menano was the one who lost control of the car, did a huge drift down the bottom of the hill, but Hardman just unable to slow the car down after jumping that curve. I'm sure we'll see a replay of that, but that was crazy, and it doesn't get any less crazy because now there's 2 more Mercedes on the scene behind Menano. Milwayne and Norris now want to get by him. There's no rest for Dave Menano.
Dave Menano would have been hoping that he was out of the water there with that off-track moment for Andrew Hardman, but he's just got Ozzy Milwayne and Kevin Norris to deal with now. Out of turn 4 they go, and towards turn 6. He's on the defensive again. Will we see a repeat? Milwayne saw what he saw last lap, and he's going for it himself, although he backs out a little bit more this time. Switches to the inside. Very nearly went for it again. Dave Menano on the defensive. He's too wide, and here goes Ozzy Milwayne. Outside line for the first part of the final chicane, but he surely will have the place now. Menano breaks a little bit earlier. Will he try and go for the runner to the front straight? No, he's just going to go right round the outside of the final corner, and the 2 are going to go side by side. Here's Kevin Norris as well. Where's he going to go? He goes with the Audi. He's going to try and push maybe Menano to the victory here for 6th place. Although the 2 still side by side. Inside line for Ozzy Milwayne, and he finally will get that place. He goes wide through turn 1. Menano once again tries to go at him into turn 2. Kevin Norris is up the inside, and he's going to have a go. Maybe into turn 4, maybe into turn 6. He's going to have to wait a bit longer.
Yeah, now Kevin Norris to the back of Menano. Hardman's back as well. Green is back as well. And look in the background, Diego Morales only has 2 seconds to make up. If there's one incident up here, he'll be back into the top 10. He'll be very happy about that. But Kevin Norris not close enough to attempt to move into turn 6, but it's been very difficult to slow these cars down here into turn 9. If it's another mistake from Menano, that'll make it very easy for Norris, but it's not. He's going to have one more shot down the front straight.
They, of course, do have one more lap after this one. The leaders are on the final lap, I believe, at this stage. They are indeed. And so there's going to be one more chance, one more lap around for Kevin Norris to make his way through. White flag is in the air. 1 lap to go here at Sandown. The gap at the front, only just over 1 second at the moment. Gil Blevesque once again leading. After disappointment at Spa, he looks like he's going to bounce back to winning ways once again here at Sandown. The time will elapse just now, and the leaders will make their way towards the final few corners, while these guys fight it out once again over what is 6th place. Ozzy Milwayne hasn't really been able to get away. Here's Gil Blevesque though, 5th win of the season. in another dominant display. He was challenged a bit more handily on this occasion. The gap is only just under a second at the line, but Guillaume Levesque extends his championship lead on Andrew Waring to at least 39 points at this stage. Another victory for Guillaume Levesque as Kevin Norris is through on Dave Meninoa. It's another last lap pass, not quite for the lead, but Kevin Norris makes it to 7th place.
I really want to see a replay of that move because Caven was shaping that one up. That would have been a great... Dave Menino actually gets by him at the line. No, that was just a timing glitch.
Yeah.
Caven Norris does hang on to the position. Dave Menino 8th, Hardman, Green, and then Morales so close. If he had one more lap, I think he would have been happy with 11th. And there's Patrick. Ryan Patrick wins an AM, and Nick McLaughlin 2nd, and more trouble for Miguel Angel Fonseca as well.
And speaking of mistakes, it was a mistake for Dave Meninoa, who lost out on that last lap there. So Kevin Norris gets up to 7th place as a result of that. And Miguel Angel Fonseca loses out on positions towards the end here as well as a result of that mistake. In, by the way, it was Ryan Patrick and Nick McLaughlin once again 1 and 2. So the gap closes to 4 points between those two. Once again, very exciting indeed as ASR Esports celebrate yet another win for the AAA of Guillaume Levesque in the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series. He wins by just a second over Jonathan Wager. Vincent Trepanier rounds out the top 3. Andrew Waring dropped to 4th with that spin at turn 9, excuse me. Arnaud Jeunesse rounds out the top 5. Ozzy Milwain held off Kevin Norris, Dave Menino, Andrew Hardman and Michelin Green for 6th. Diego Morales recovered to 11th ahead of AM winner Ryan Patrick. Mark McDonald and Ted Lowendick were fighting for most of the race, with Nick McLaughlin, who finished 15th. David Bush, Tommy Breton, Quatnin, Caleb Lehrman and Alexander Breton round out the top 20, with Sean Mulholland just missing out. Christopher Rains was next ahead of Matt Hilton, 23rd. Miguel Angel Fonseca dropped out from 21st to 24th on that final lap. Corey Precker, last car inside the top 25. Ethan Taratas, first car 1 lap down, ahead of Marc-Andre Desjardins, who will be exceptionally disappointed with that. Phil Amaro, 28th, ahead of David Morse and Devin Horvath, also 1 lap down. Alex Wright was 31st, ahead of Rob Campbell, who didn't see the checkered flag. Neither did Michael Broomhead, Clayton Ham, or Luke Davis. Well, that just about does it for your GT3 Sprint Series race, and we already have Guillaume Levesque waiting for us to be interviewed. So here he is. We've brought him in. Guillaume, good to have you back with us once again. Happily, a much better race for you on this occasion. It's your 5th win of the season, but quite a narrow winning margin at the end. Just talk us through how you felt with this car at this circuit. Were you feeling very comfortable out there today, or was it a bit more of a challenge than you felt in recent weeks?
I'm not gonna lie, that was not my favorite track, so I didn't put a lot of practice in it since I have Pro Q every weekend. So yeah, that's a combination. So I don't love the track. I didn't practice a lot, so that makes a tough race for me. I messed up in Q, so I didn't start from pole, and then Diego was really quick at the beginning, so I couldn't save fuel. So yeah, that was a pretty tough one. I would say it's my toughest of the year, I think.
Certainly looked like it indeed. I mean, we've got Hungaroring, Suzuka, Nürburgring coming up. Any of those circuits to your disliking, or even better, are any of those circuits maybe to your liking?
No, all of those are really good, so I'm okay with that. I'm pretty happy that this one is behind us.
Absolutely, and it's indeed behind you with another victory and more of a championship lead as well. So congratulations, Guillaume. A great drive from you here today, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much. Guillaume Levesque there, winner in the Pro category. Let's deal with the winners first, though, Joey. You're standing by with AM winner Ryan Patrick.
Ryan, you started 3rd in the AM category, and then the 2 drivers ahead of you got taken out, took the lead over. No mistakes from there. How was the race from your perspective?
Oh, thanks, guys. Just survival. That's where it was from my perspective, was just try to keep it clean and see what happened. I knew it was going to be a little bit of chaos here at Sandown this week.
How did you prepare coming into this race? Because chaos, I guess, by definition, is unpredictable. So you couldn't really predict what was going to happen. We just knew something was going to happen. How did you come into this race knowing that there was likely going to be a little bit of drama and a little bit of contact?
Yeah, just stay out of everybody's way. I did quite a few officials this week, and I was able to fuel save quite a bit and try to catch them in the pits. And so I knew if I just kind of kept it clean, stayed in a clean race, I might have a chance. But I would have been happy with the top 5 here, just based on the chaos.
Well, you and Nick McLaughlin seem to have found each other on track every week, and this is only going to close that championship down. There's only 3 races left in this season after tonight. Is it starting to feel tense in this battle between you and Nick?
There were some butterflies at the beginning. I knew that anything could happen during this race, and I know how close it is, but it's just fun. It's nice to have him so close, and it's going to make it a lot more interesting for the next 3.
All right, well, congrats on your win tonight, and hopefully this battle keeps up for the next 3 weeks.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
That was your AM winner, Ryan Patrick, and I believe we might just be talking to another AM podium sitter, Nick McLaughlin. We talked to him earlier in the race. Nick, it's been only 24 minutes since we talked to you last, but you're back in the booth. Welcome back.
Oh, hey guys, fancy seeing you here.
So it's second place, which I'm sure is somewhat disappointing because the guy who won is the guy you're fighting for the championship, but you started 6th. You advanced 4 or 5 spots, however that math works, and it's second place somehow. How does that feel?
Honestly, it's another one where I'll take the second behind Ryan. We seem to be just handing them back and forth here, so it's going to come right down to the wire if we keep this up all season. But yeah, I don't know. The guys did a lot of good quali laps ahead of me. I didn't get a good run in, and we made the best of where we started. So
I want to tell the people at home a little bit of inside baseball here. When you joined us in the booth, when Ted Lowendick joined us in the booth a couple weeks ago, he was hanging out here the whole time. You were hanging out with your team. So while you were driving the car, you disconnected from another Discord server. You read my message. You joined another server, all while driving a car around Sandown. How is that physically possible?
It wasn't too bad. I got a mouse here that's pretty handy and a top screen. So I saw the time. I think we were about 25 minutes left in the race, and I'm like, oh, I'll start kind of make my way over there, and seen your name pop up, and I'm like, okay, well, here we are.
Do you think this gave you a competitive advantage?
Absolutely. At least 0.2 a lap given the booth.
That's not an endorsement. I don't know what is. Congrats on second, and we'll see you keep fighting for this championship for the next 3 weeks.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks for having me, guys.
That was P2 Nick McLaughlin. Now we're going to hop back up to the pros. Ewan, you're with P5 Arnaud Genet.
Yeah, let's go back to the pros. Arnaud, welcome back to the booth once again. Good to have you here. 5th place here today for you at what is a difficult circuit. Of course, how did you find a new addition to iRacing, of course, Sandown?
Oh, man. I have to be honest here. I hate the track. It's so hard to be consistent, I'd say, and P5 is pretty good again for as a result, but I had so much problem, and it was pretty a lonesome race for me. So the top 4 was leaving, and I was left behind, and then the guys Norris, Menino, Heinman, Milwain behind me were battling, so I was pretty really alone in that spot. So I'll take it. Of course, P5 is a pretty great result, but I hate the track. Those high curbs, slow corners, it doesn't suit really well the Merc there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Ferrari.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, it's not been a driver favourite so far. You're not alone in that at all. In terms of the remaining weeks here, obviously you came into today 9th in the standings, but what is the kind of aim for you for the rest of this season?
Well, if I could finish P5 and the general standings, that would be totally stoked. Of course, we're looking for that team championship, but P5 is pretty much the mark here. I had to miss one run round, and I already took my my bye week, so it's gonna be hard. But let's keep focus ahead, and wish I could bring back home that global P5.
We look forward to seeing you again over the next few weeks, Anu, but for now, we'll let you go. Congratulations on another nice drive today, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you, guys. Have a nice one. Thanks very much. Anu there for fifth place, today in the pro category. We're going to go back to the AMs now, Joey, because we're now joined by Kwok Nin from third place.
Kwok Nin, last of our podium sitters in AM. Seemed like it was a pretty quiet race for you, too. It wasn't a quiet race for a lot of drivers, but I can't remember a single mistake from you, and that must have been pretty hard.
Yeah, I had a lot of practice on the track. I drove the track on the 13th week, so I had quite a lot of practice. I like the track. It's not that fun. It's short, but the thing with this, I'm afraid to make passes because of all those curves, especially at the chicane. I wanted to keep up with Laughlin, but I think Tommy, who was a pro, was right behind me, and we were fighting, but of course there was like no need for it. But I wanted to stay in front so he could keep the space between the other AM drivers and myself.
Well, I think you're the first driver we've talked to tonight who's actually said they like Sandown, which is confusing. I love this track. I don't know why the other guys don't like it, but I'm glad you liked it. And speaking of tracks that some people don't like, next week off of the Hungaroring, sometimes difficult to pass there. How are you feeling?
I'm not feeling much confidence there. That track is probably one of my least favorite tracks. I was running officials the last 2 days. Today and yesterday, and I pretty much lost the safety rating from it. So, I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen next week with all those off tracks.
Well, congrats on third tonight, and we will see you next week, and we hope you can keep it on the track.
All right, thank you for broadcasting, guys.
No problem. Certainly make it easy. Kwok Nin, third place finisher. We got one more pro in the booth. Ted Lowendick finished 13th, but guess what? We're going to talk to him anyway, because that Zoom background, that's the reason.
Yeah, well, partly, yeah. Ted Lowendick now joining us from Australia, by the looks of it. 13th place in the pro category today, Ted. Just talk us through your race, talk us through how you're feeling after that one at what is a difficult circuit, of course.
I think I'm in the minority because I actually like Sandown. Challenging, it's fun. But it's not an Audi track, so it was a little bit of a struggle. But I had fun. Can't wait to watch the race back. And yeah, I realize now I should have flipped my camera upside down to have the full effect, but I missed that. I missed the chance, so I'm kind of mad at myself for that one.
It would have been a very good opportunity for you there, but yeah, unfortunately you thought of that too late. Never mind. 3 weeks to go, of course, here in the season. How are you feeling about that? I mean, you came into today 17th in the standings. Is there any aim for you there, or is it just kind of race by race at this point?
I'm just here to have fun this year. I won't be here next week, so I'll be missing that one. I had a couple really bad rounds early on, so yeah, it's just week to week. Put in laps, get better. Hopefully next season we're back and able to be a little more competitive.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks, though, Ted. Thanks very much for coming to join us, and we'll see you there.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much there, Ted Lowendick, joining us there from 13th in the pro category. One final interview to do here. Joey, Corey Precker now joining us.
Corey Precker, P10 in the AM category this week. Give me 1 second, Corey. I'm trying to refresh my memory, because I was here in the booth on Sunday for that NASCAR Cup Series race at the Indianapolis Road Course. Were you in that race? I don't remember.
I was not in that race.
That's why I don't remember you being in that race. That explains it. But Sandown, GT3 cars, we talked about on Sunday about how the NASCAR Cup cars don't really match with the Indy Road Course. How did GT3 cars match with Sandown for you?
It was pretty tough out there. A little bit of a poor qualifying. I think I was doing 106, high 106s going into qualifying. I thought I could have got P5 in quali, and I think quali is everything around this track, just because just very tight, twisty track. But poor qualifying, but ended up getting P10. I think I started P11. Yeah, these cars just, I don't think that it really goes well with this track that much, but it was a new track to me, and sometimes it's also fun to go on a new track as well.
Well, we've been talking to everybody about these tracks. Let's do it one more time. Next 3 weeks, Hungaroring, Suzuka, Nürburgring. 3 F1 tracks. Pick the one you're looking forward to the most. If any.
I think, really, it's the last time out last season, I had I got P5 overall at the Nürburgring, although that was on the combined Nordschleife layout, and I think I was a little bit slower on the GP layout than any other cars, but I would say Suzuka, because overall that's just a driver's track going, especially through the S's right there. It's you're going left, right, and the GT3 car, I know in the Suzuka 10 hours last year was so much fun to drive through that, but it can also be a little bit tough track, especially if it gets hot out there as well, because the tires just start to dip off because the track is so windy and crazy.
All right, well, congrats on bringing it home tonight at such a crazy race, and we'll see you next week, but I think we'll also see you on Sunday, and we'll also see you on Monday. So congrats on finishing tonight, and congrats on coming up into the booth with us.
Hey, Joey.
That was Corey Precker. I don't know why I congratulated him on coming into the booth, but we'll ignore that. And Corey Precker, always with us here 3 times a week. He's a very diverse driver, isn't he?
He is a very diverse driver, very committed to the driving here in the Precision Racing League as well. Thanks very much to everybody who's tuned in tonight, and make sure you tune in for some more great racing action here at the Hungaroring as well. Going to be great to be back there again 1 week's time, same place, here on RaceSpotTV. Another couple of races at another one of iRacing's relatively new circuits indeed. That is the face, though, of the winner, Guillaume Levesque, again in the GT3 Sprint Series here at the Precision Racing League. We've had 2 great races here at a new circuit. Sandown has really produced for us today, including another last lap pass. Make sure you join us next week at the Hungaroring to see if we get any more, but for now we will bid you farewell. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Joey Tebbin. Hugo Luis has been behind the cameras, and until we see you next week, it's goodbye for now.